Her smile was a light in my darkest days. I thought maybe, just maybe, Maria could be the one to pull me out of the abyss. But as we celebrated her birthday, doubts crept in. Could I really be the man she needed? Or was I just a broken shell, pretending to be whole? The fear of losing her, of losing everything again, clawed at me like a relentless demon. And yet, I couldn't stop myself from falling deeper. The next morning, we all sat at the kitchen table while Dawn cooked French toast. Megan was sipping her coffee quickly. She looked at Robin and said, "You tell him I'm too tired." Robin replied cheerfully, "Sure. Daddy," she called out. "Yes, sweetie. Maria, Vanessa, Kathy, and Freddie all think you're silly." "That's true, sweetheart. But I'm a nice silly," Don said without stopping as he flipped the French toast. "Well, we started a club to help you be cooler so you can meet lots of nice people. Is that all right?" "Sure, I could really use a good change. Do we need to pay anything?" Robin looked at me and I quickly shook my head no. "No, Dad, it doesn't cost anything to change." All my friends were covering their faces at this point. I think Freddie was trying really hard not to laugh so much that tears were in her eyes. "What's the name of the group?" Don asked. "The Perfecting Dad Club," Robin replied. Megan wasn't really paying attention. She just sat there sipping her coffee as if this was something she did all the time. "That's a nice name. Do we get t-shirts?" Don asked. "No, just ball caps," Megan replied. "Well, I guess that's better than nothing," Don said with a shrug. With those words, we were officially ready to start. I was starting to think that maybe I could use some help with being more cool, too. I'm a dork, I'm a dork, I'm a dork, 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 I'm a dork, I'm a dork, I'm a dork, dork, dork. I was softly singing and mumbling to myself while making breakfast, the words going along with the tune from The Lone Ranger by Rossini. When Robin shared what Maria and her friends said about me, my first thought was, of course it took them long enough to see it. I did feel a bit upset because it reminded me of some bad times. I guess I'm a bit of a fool for my ex-wife to have been so open about her affair for 3 years, with my sisters even helping her keep it a secret. It's time to relax. My new friends are going to help me feel more confident. They probably had a long talk planned for me, but I'm glad Robin got right to the point. I know they are helping me because they care, even though it will take some effort. On the bright side, I get to learn from 4 former models. That sounds just fine to me. Maybe I should just burn the French toast I made for them. I finished cooking and joined them at the table to eat. So, when do we start the lessons to help us all lighten up? And what will they be like? I timed it just right, so they all had food in their mouths or were sipping coffee. Food and coffee went flying everywhere, and I happily high-fived Robin. Megan was drinking coffee and didn't spill a drop. She just kept sipping her drink. Kathy coughed a little and said, "We were thinking of going skiing today, and later Maria will teach us some dance moves. That's part of your fun lessons." "That sounds great," I replied. "I had a nice time skiing that day. Only my daughters and Freddie stayed near me. I believe the others felt too shy to speak up." That night, I was really upset to find out that since I was the one being teased, I didn't get a baseball cap. What a rip-off. But maybe it's for the best, since it might have said official dork on it, and I wouldn't want that. Kathy took over the talk after my lessons. "Don, we all think you're a wonderful person, but your confidence has really gone down since the divorce. We're here to help you regain your confidence and become more appealing. You have great potential, and with a few new skills and some small changes in your appearance, you can really shine. Once we make those changes, you'll attract a lot of attention. Then, the 4 of us will take you out on practice dates to help you get comfortable. When we feel you're ready, we'll set you up with a special girl for a real date. Just let us handle it all." I couldn't shake the feeling that this sounded a lot like Pygmalion. What really stung was thinking they would try to set me up with someone else. I really wished one of my new friends liked me as more than just a friend. Honestly, I was hoping that the kiss with Maria meant something bigger and that she might actually have feelings for me. Let's be honest. Maria is a wealthy and stunning former model, and I feel like just a foolish guy who can't stand up for himself. My sisters had turned against me, my friends thought I liked being humiliated, and my co-workers showed so little respect that they didn't tell me when my wife was unfaithful. They just got involved with her themselves. The court even made sure I found out about my wife's secrets. To make it all worse for a while, even my own daughters thought the same things about me. Cuckolded dork is such a fitting name for me. I think something special should be created just for my situation. I understand that if I show my feelings of disappointment and sadness, they will just say nice things to make me feel better. They might even offer me a kind gesture to lift my spirits. Freddie and Kathy often talk about their interest in romance. They might even feel like they could help me out, even if they wouldn't really want to. As for Maria, I just can't believe she would ever like me back. But I can't help it. I'm really in love with her. I feel like a fool. I need to move on from feelings I never should have had, but I have no idea how to do that. A line from a fitting song popped into my mind. Unchain my heart because you don't care about me. Feeling sad with that tune playing over and over, I told everyone I was tired and planned to go to bed early. But first I wanted a nice hot shower. Only weak people cry into their pillows, but when you're in the shower, no one can see. I finally fell asleep around 4 in the morning after spending most of my time in the bathroom. Having daughters means there's one place where a guy can be alone for sure. Ouch, I'm hurting. But it's my own fault. I let my imagination run wild with silly dreams that felt too real. This morning felt terrible. I woke up around 6:30. All I wanted to do was stay in my room or go back to my apartment just to be alone. But I couldn't do that. First, I had my daughters to think about. Second, my friends didn't deserve me shutting them out. They cared about me, but none of them really loved me. I shouldn't have been foolish enough to think otherwise. I kept staring at my face in the mirror. My eyes looked awful, and there was no way to cover that up. I needed to get moving and push myself to feel better. I glanced at the clock again, but it was still too early. Instead of staying in my room until I had to go out, maybe I should quietly go to Maria's gym and get a good workout. So that's what I decided to do. Usually, I like to exercise for 2 hours. Sometimes my schedule only lets me fit in an hour. But today, I managed to work out for 3.5 hours. I lifted weights, did some crunches, and spent a long time on the treadmill. It felt great. Eventually, Vanessa found me. I think everyone else had been searching the whole house for me, but she was the only one who thought to check the gym in the basement. "Don, we've been looking all over for you," she said. "How long have you been down here?" I slowed the treadmill and lowered the incline so I could talk. "Oh, hi, Vanessa. I woke up a bit early. I've been missing my workouts, so I thought I'd come to the gym. I wasn't trying to hide or anything. But really, I was. Well, we have breakfast ready. Come upstairs soon, okay?" "Vanessa, you run a gym, you understand. I need to cool down on the treadmill and then take a shower. It will take at least 20 to 30 minutes, even if I hurry." I lowered the incline and turned down the speed a little bit. "All right, do your best. I'll let everyone know where you are, and we'll keep breakfast warm for you." A few minutes later, my kids came down to see how I was doing. They looked happy to find me, and I felt bad for making them anxious. They waited until I finished cooling down, then hurried me upstairs for a quick shower. When I reached the kitchen, I saw everyone eating slowly so I wouldn't have to eat alone. They were very kind, and even though it hurt me sometimes, they were truly nice people. After they helped me freshen up a bit, I knew I had to get serious about dating. I needed to stop clinging to the past and my little daydreams. It was time to focus and really try my best. I really didn't want to grow old by myself. That day, we went skiing again. Vanessa and Freddie stayed nearby, but Kathy and Maria were a bit further away. Later that evening, we had more dance lessons. Vanessa told me that I would start physical training in the morning. By 7 o'clock, Vanessa and I were busy in the gym. She began by teaching me some new exercises for my stomach and chest. They were tough, but not too bad. "Don, you are one of the strongest people I know. The only ones I know who are stronger are a couple of friends who lift weights. I think you could impress them with how strong you are. I'm sorry to say this because you are not out of shape at all, but we need to put you on a special eating plan if we want you to look fit soon." "A special eating plan?" I said, feeling shocked. "Yes, I know this is tough, Don, but we have to do it. First, we will cut your bread, pasta, and sweets in half. I also want you to pay attention to how much fat you eat." "For how long will this last?" "Don, I have seen what you eat. You really enjoy your bread, pasta, cakes, cookies, and pies. To stay fit, even with all the exercise you do and your fast metabolism, you will likely need to watch your carbs for quite a while. I could tell she wanted to say forever instead of for quite a while. If she had said forever, I would have been out of there right away. We won't make you start your diet until January 1st. That way you can have some fun. I really got lucky there. It would have been awful if I couldn't enjoy my big appetizer feast. There are no big meals, just many tasty and rich appetizers. Did I say they are really delicious? The food starts coming out around 3 in the afternoon and keeps coming until 1 in the morning. On New Year's Eve, I only step out of the kitchen for the midnight toast. I enjoy making small amounts of different dishes. This way, the food is always hot and fresh, so nothing gets old or cold. I also plan to use Maria's Christmas train for the evening. After we worked out that morning, we took showers, ate breakfast, and went skiing. That night, I went to more dance lessons. The next day was just like the one before. On New Year's Eve morning, I took a long drive early to get some fresh seafood I had ordered. I arrived at the store when it opened at 9 in the morning, and I was back at Maria's by 1 in the afternoon. Let the party begin. I shooed everyone out of the kitchen. I wanted to surprise them with the tasty treats I was making. First, I set up Maria's train. I made sure it could pull all 3 of its big cars. Each car was just the right size for a few large plates. Then, I took the train and moved it along the path I chose for it. It would begin in the kitchen at its charging spot. Then, it would move to the movie room, circling around the chairs inside. After finishing in the movie room, it would go to the big room and do the same thing there. Once it was done, it would go back to its charging station. The train had little antennae on it. If it bumped into something with one of those antennae, it would stop right away until the way was clear. If you wanted it to end, all you needed to do was put out your foot. I began cooking tasty, greasy food in the kitchen with my deep fryers. The kitchen quickly turned into a mess, but that's what happens when you want to feast. First, I made a batch of coconut chicken wings and then some coconut shrimp. I also had mini pizzas baking in the oven, and I was frying Italian sausage that I could cut into pieces for you to enjoy with a toothpick. A big batch of kielbasa was cooking while I had stuffed mushrooms in another oven. I had 6 ovens going at once, and I felt really happy about it. I sent the first round of food out, excited to share it. Soon enough, Maria quietly came into the kitchen. "How much food are you going to make?" she asked, a bit shy. "You haven't seen anything yet. I'm just beginning," I replied with a smile. "Can I invite a few friends over?" she asked. "We have so much food that we won't be able to finish it all. Feel free to take whatever you want. It's your home, after all. I don't mind at all." The first guests to arrive were Carl and his wife, Lucille. They had just returned from visiting their kids and grandkids. Lucille was still using her cane since her accident. She greeted me with a smile and then went into the movie room with the other women. Carl brought along some delicious homemade drinks. What a nice guy he is! It was a tasty amber lager that went down really well, and before we knew it, we were best friends. It's funny how things happen like that. He became my helper in the kitchen and the main bartender. I would put food on a plate and he would fill up the tray. When it came back, he would take away the dirty dishes and clean them. Most importantly, when my beer was running low, he would refill it for me. We chatted about a lot of things. Some of the important topics we talked about were tools, fishing, family, poker, sports, children, and hunting. I always wanted to go hunting, but my father got sick and passed away when I was too young. Because of this, I never had anyone to teach me, and I never found the time to try it myself. One day, while playing with a toy train, one of us began to hum Chattanooga Choo Choo. This made the other person start singing it quietly, and before we knew it, both of us were singing it together loudly. Maria's kitchen is the best kitchen I have ever seen. It even has its own music system. I'm not sure where Carl found it, but he brought in a CD with music from the swing era. We listened to great songs like Chattanooga Choo Choo, and sometimes sang along if we knew the words, even if we didn't know them all the time. Other songs on the CD included In the Mood, Mac the Knife, Sentimental Journey, Ain't Misbehavin', and Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. Now and then we would get up and dance, but it didn't last long because Carl wasn't a very good dancer, and he never let me take charge. I think I could use another beer. We began serving a lot of seafood like Dungeness crab, mussels, clams, oysters, and shrimp. Then we brought out some mushrooms, too. More guests came, including Nancy and some of Maria's other friends from the lodge. Now and then, someone would come in to see how me and Carl were doing. We were okay, a bit tipsy, but doing just fine. I think our singing was driving them away most of the time, but sometimes they would stay and watch us in surprise or maybe shock from the noise we were making. Carl went home earlier and came back with some rich dark beer and a few more CDs. Maria's lovely kitchen was a mess. So what if I spilled a few things? At least I didn't spill my beer. At 11:45, we sent a big tray of champagne back to the movie room. At midnight, my kids gave me sweet kisses, and then they kissed Maria too. Maria gave me a quick kiss on the lips. I received a lot of kisses. It's really nice to get kisses from friends. Carl and I began our last cooking project. Once we finished, we sat down with his last six-pack of drinks and started playing a card game called Gin at the kitchen table. We were quite tipsy by the time we finished the last of the drinks, and I think I owed Carl a huge amount of money because we were playing for $100 for each point. Did you know that homemade beer has more alcohol than store-bought beer? Daddy, Daddy, Megan said with a worried look on her face. Yes, sweetie, he replied, a bit confused. I think you should go to bed. But the kitchen is messy. I need to tidy it up. Don, don't worry about the kitchen. Tomorrow is the day my cleaning team comes. They will take care of it, Maria said, looking really worried, with Vanessa nodding in agreement. Carl had already left, but I didn't recall when he went. It had been a while since I felt this tipsy. Okay, sounds good, I said, as I wobbled up the stairs. Megan, Robin, Maria, and Vanessa stood ready to help me if I stumbled. But I surprised them. I didn't trip until I reached the hallway upstairs. Megan was chatting with Maria. My dad rarely drinks. The most I've seen him have in one day is 4 beers. I thought it was a good moment to start singing. I'm feeling so dry, and I'll be so uncomfortable if I can't find the bathroom key. Nope, that's not right. What should I sing next? Vanessa is really tough for a girl. I turned my head to look at Maria and thought of the perfect song. Free my heart. Please let me be free my heart because you don't care about me. You've got me down like a pillow on a bed, but you let my love fade away. Free my heart. Let me go free. My singing isn't too great. All right, I was mumbling a bit, and I know I can't sing like Joe Cocker or Ray Charles, but Vanessa was giving me some really strange and worried looks. I think she was the only one nearby who could hear me. Maybe she's a music expert. The next morning, I woke up with a terrible headache. My oldest daughter was looking down at me, and she looked very worried. In one hand, she held a mug of coffee, and in the other, she had a glass full of ice cubes. Can anyone spell revenge? She helped me sit up, and I groaned the whole time. Here, Dad, drink this, she said, giving me a cup of coffee. Then she went to the bathroom and returned with a bumpy towel. She placed the towel on my head. What a sweet kid. She had put ice cubes in the towel and folded it up. It felt great on my aching head. I always knew she was special to me. Vanessa and Freddie rushed into my room, and Maria walked in slowly behind them. I said sorry for my silly behavior last night, and they kindly told me it was okay. They went on about all the delicious food I had cooked. I only make such a big meal once a year. I don't think anyone could eat that way more than that. Instead of teasing me about my headache, Vanessa and Freddie acted like I had a good reason to drink too much. That's not true, of course. Maria didn't say much and kept giving me strange looks. I must have really surprised her with how I acted. I really hoped I didn't ruin our friendship. I didn't want to be the reason for any problems, and it would make my daughters very sad. They brought me some glasses of water and some pills for my headache, then told me to rest. A few hours later, Megan came back to see how I was doing. I was feeling better, but I still wanted to lie in bed. Before she left, I asked her to put a movie in the player for me, just something to keep me company. She picked up my case of DVDs and CDs and began to look through it. Daddy, do you want me to put in the movie Houseboat? No, sweetheart, I'm tired of that one. I've seen it enough times. Can you put in an Abbott and Costello movie instead? She gave me a strange look but did what I asked. Then she kissed me and left the room. I spent the day resting and feeling better. My friends and I watched movies that night. We skipped dance lessons. The next morning, I woke up early to go to the gym. Vanessa came to help me about an hour later so she could work out too. I felt proud that I could lift 360 pounds, but Vanessa was really looking forward to teaching someone how to lift heavy weights. I felt a bit nervous about what I had signed up for with her as my trainer. I have nothing against powerlifters, but I might need to get some new shirts if she keeps pushing me. For the next 4 days, I worked out in the morning, skied all day, cooked dinner, and took dance lessons. I stayed really busy. The only hard part was the low-carb diet Vanessa put me on. Then my family turned on me and both of them made sure I stuck to the diet. Maria came back with us on Sunday. She and my friends played Yahtzee for almost the whole trip. I felt really anxious. Don took the public display of affection better than I expected. He seemed a little strange for a few days, but he was not angry at all. I can't believe all the food he made for New Year's Eve. Then he and Carl had a little too much to drink. I think guys need to have fun like that sometimes. I think he was worried I might be upset with him. He was very nice for the rest of our time in the mountains. To keep him guessing, I stayed calm around him. This way, when we meet again, he might not act silly like last time. I think I'm pretty good at this. On Wednesday, I went to his apartment like usual. I even got there a bit early and let myself in. The girls were so happy to see me, and we talked a lot about their mom. I felt good about what they were doing for her, but I also felt a bit envious. They were correct, and any better feelings between them and their mother was truly good for everyone. I just had to accept that I would need to share them. I could handle that. It was the right choice, and I had to change what I expected from my bond with my girls. They were still my girls, but they were also Barbara's, and I couldn't take her place as their mother. I keep reminding myself that having part of something is better than having nothing at all. When I walked into Don's office to check out his new chair, it still hadn't arrived. I would need to call the company and tell them to hurry up. I was there so early that the girls took me to meet Ken, the designer of my jewelry. They took me downstairs to Don's workshop, where Ken was busy working on some other pieces. It quickly became clear to me that Don was right. Ken didn't have much work at the moment. It seemed silly to me that such a skilled young man couldn't find work. He was doing his best by selling handmade jewelry and cheaper items at street fairs. But the materials were expensive, and he couldn't buy all the tools he needed. He mentioned that without Don's help and workshop, he would soon go out of business. Don surprised him by giving an extra month of free rent and a check for $5,000 because my friends and I were so happy with our gifts. I told him I might help him, but I needed to look into some things first. We exchanged cell phone numbers. I usually don't wear bracelets, but I really liked the ones he made for Freddie and Vanessa. So I asked Ken if he could make a bracelet to match the ones he had already made for me. It was a good deal, and he really needed the job. After chatting with Ken, my daughters and I went back upstairs to wait for Don. When he came in, he looked really unhappy. It seemed like he had a tough day at work. On the way to the counselor, I shared my idea about helping Ken. He liked my idea and said I always tried to help my friends. Don was happy to support my plan for Ken. Now I just need to ask for help from Freddie, Vanessa, and Kathy. In a hidden place that looked a lot like Freddie's studio, with art supplies scattered everywhere, the PDA Secret Security Directorate was having a meeting. This group was so secret that even the president of the PDA didn't know about it. The blonde leader of the directorate, using the codename Sister D-Day, spoke to her team. That was Agent M on the phone, and things have taken a turn for the worse. The only music Don listens to is that same song again and again. He even got rid of the Houseboat DVD. Things are getting serious. She looked at the red-haired member. Sister Flounder, should we tell Maria about this or just stay silent? Sister Flounder made a face at her nickname, but all the other members had chosen it, so she just went with it. At least it would help me write a strong paper for my doctorate, she thought. If we tell Maria, I see two possible outcomes. First, she might still think of herself as the great Scarlet Woman who doesn't deserve someone like St. Don. She could say something silly like, "Oh, maybe this is for the best." Second, she could go to him, get very excited, and they might spend a whole week together without coming out of the room. But thinking it over, since Maria is acting a bit foolish, I'd say the first option is more likely. I wish we had been more successful in getting rid of that awful nickname for Maria that keeps coming up. If we try too hard to make her friends stop using it, they might just use it even more without thinking. Those mean people know how much it bothers her, and they also know how nice and giving Maria is. They think that because they never say it to her face, she doesn't hear it at all. Then they wonder why she doesn't hang out with them like she used to, those fools. The dark-haired Sister Bluto said, "Well, what are we going to do?" Sister Flounder answered, We need to focus on Maria more, try to cheer up Don and keep other women away from him. That way, Maria can think things through. Sister D-Day stood up. And that's what this group was made for, to keep other women away from Don. Let's remember that they are both our friends. If Don gets involved with someone else, we might never get to have the pie we love again. Now let's end the meeting with the... Sister Flounder said strongly. I will not do that silly handshake again. It's awkward and inappropriate. You two have strange ideas, and if you keep this up, I will tell Megan and Robin. It was another weekend at Maria's house. Freddie and Kathy called me in a rush, asking me to bring the pie. They are good friends, so I decided to bring 2 pies. I've shared the recipe with them before, so I don't understand why they don't make it on their own. It was just another regular weekend. On Friday night, we had dinner and the girls watched movies. On Saturday, we worked out in the morning, ate breakfast, then went skiing during the day. After that, we had dinner and danced until we got tired. Then, the girls went back to their movies while I headed to bed. Sunday starts with some morning exercise and breakfast. Suddenly, I hear Vanessa talking to me. Don, I had an idea. You work near my gym. If you're free on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can come by after work to exercise. You would see better results this way. I know you are working out at home, but at the gym I can help change your exercises to make them more effective. That sounds nice, but remember, your gym is for women only. Will this get you in trouble with your clients? No, sometimes I have men there. If a client doesn't like it, they might leave. But that has never happened to me. Even though it's a women's club, they usually don't mind if a man shows up now and then. All right then, I'll meet you on Tuesday after work. Is 7 p.m. good for you? That works for me, Don. I'll see you then. On Tuesday after dinner, I follow Vanessa's instructions to her day spa and gym. When I get there, I'm pleasantly surprised. It's much larger than I expected. As I step inside, I notice a display for Ken's jewelry creations. There are pictures of Vanessa, Freddie, Kathy, and Maria showing off his designs. There's a small pile of brochures, a holder for his business cards, and his website listed. I made a website for him. I also updated Vanessa's business website and created one for Freddie's studio. I know that Freddie has a similar setup for Ken at her studio, and it has worked even better for him than it has here. Besides her amazing traditional paintings, Freddie mainly earns money from her art on skin, like tattoos and body painting. Many people who enjoy body art also appreciate unique jewelry. Maria has some great ideas. Vanessa is waiting for me at the front desk. Hi, Don. Did you find the place okay? Yes, everything was fine. I'm really surprised. Your club is much larger than I expected. That's because we have a big swimming pool, and not many places like ours have one. I believe swimming is one of the best ways to stay fit, especially for our older clients. At first, it cost a lot more than we expected, but now it's one of the things that brings in the most people. I feel really silly. I thought your business was much smaller. To make it up to your female clients, I thought I'd bake some cookies. Sounds silly, right? Vanessa brightens up, and so does her receptionist and 2 customers nearby. I wouldn't say that, Don. It's actually a nice idea, and I think I smelled cookies when you walked in. How many cookies do you have in that box? 3 dozen chocolate chip cookies and 3 dozen white chocolate and macadamia nut cookies. I placed the box on the counter and opened it. Now all the women were leaning in and smiling with excitement. The receptionist asks if she can have a cookie. They belong to Vanessa, so it's her choice, I reply. Vanessa nods, and everyone there eagerly takes a cookie. Don, I think you're going to be the most liked person here really soon. I need to use Vanessa's office to change my clothes. After that, she leads me through a tough workout. That evening at the club, many ladies came over to thank me for the cookies. I have a plan now. My silly daydream ended when I learned that Maria didn't like me in a special way, and neither did her friends. So I decided to make the most of it. I want to meet other women. Maria and her friends enjoy my baking, so I think I can use that to start conversations with other girls. I won't rush into things just yet. I'll wait until I feel comfortable here before I start talking with some of the women at the club. Maria says I'm kind of awkward, and I see this as a chance to learn. If I don't meet the right person now, I'll use what I learned for next time. It's time to stop just sitting around in my apartment. I get a good workout at Vanessa's club, but she keeps encouraging me to lift heavier weights. I spend an hour and a half on the treadmill. I know it might sound weak, but I prefer running on a treadmill. It's easier on my knees and feet. Plus, it's nice to exercise in a comfortable building. When I'm finished, Vanessa says she can wait for me while I shower in the locker room. But instead, I decide to go home in my comfy sweats. Sister D-Day, this is Sister Bluto. Don just left here and he brought cookies. I told a few of my good clients about Don, and they made sure to welcome him warmly. But you know Don, always a nice guy. Did you keep any cookies for me? I wanted to, but when I got back to the box, it was empty. Not even a crumb left. Wow, no cookies for me? And it seems like too many women at your club have enjoyed his baking. You should watch out. You probably have a few food lovers, maybe more, at your gym. He's a handsome guy who can cook and bake really well. For someone who loves food, he's the perfect catch. Just watch him. If you see anyone in your group getting hungry eyes when they look at Don, let me know. We might need to rethink our plan to help Don feel good about himself at the gym. It could have been worse. Imagine if he had brought the cake or the pie to my group. We wouldn't stand a chance. He might have gotten 30 or more phone numbers, and some might even have been written on clothes. Honestly, I can picture some of my friends trying to take him away. There's this one girl who loves chocolate. She's very wealthy, strong, and works out all the time because she eats so many sweets. I can easily see her taking Don and flying him to Las Vegas on her father's private plane. They would end up getting married after just one taste of that delicious pie. I've talked with her trainer to help her use the pool whenever she and Don are here together. Yes, we might have made a big mistake by suggesting Don work out at your gym, but we didn't know he would bring food. It almost seems like Don is trying to meet women, but that would be a big shift in how he usually acts. We can't go back now. It would hurt Don's feelings. Just do your best, Vanessa. If I can help in any way, just give me a call. Thanks, Freddie. I might need your help. Since you and Kathy are both members here, you may need to change your workout times a bit to help me watch over Don. I'll let you know if that is needed. This is Sister Bluto signing off. Goodbye, Sister Bluto. And remember, next time Don brings food, you better save some for me and Sister Flounder. She can seem like a very hungry thinker at times, but she really loves food just as much. If she discovers you didn't keep any cookies for her, she will be upset with you for a long time. The next few months became pretty usual. On Mondays, I visited my therapist. Tuesdays and Thursdays were for working out at Vanessa's gym. Every Wednesday, Maria came over and we took my daughters to their therapist. From Friday to Sunday, we spent time at Maria's house. We danced, exercised, skied, and enjoyed lots of tasty food. Sometimes, on Wednesday nights after our therapy session, Maria would teach us how to dance instead of watching movies or playing games with my friends. Moving the furniture to create enough space for dancing was really annoying. At the end of January, I had a private meeting with Ken. I nearly ran out of time to place my order. His business was going great, but he promised to finish the job I asked for on time. One Wednesday, Maria spent all afternoon at my apartment. She was tired of waiting for my Christmas gift to arrive, so she decided to take care of the delivery herself. When I came home, it was a wonderful surprise to find her there. Maria is always very nice to her friends. I was really upset. Don had some issues at work that messed up our travel plans for February 21st, and I couldn't go with my kids to our mountain home. To make things worse, Vanessa, Freddie, and Kathy teased me nonstop during the whole ride. I just hoped this weekend would get better, or I was really going to lose my temper. But it got even worse. Don hurt his knee, so he couldn't ski all weekend. I wanted to stay home and take care of him, but everyone said we should all go skiing anyway. When Megan and Robin looked at me with their big, pleading eyes, I felt I had to give in. I knew Don needed to rest his knee, which meant he needed someone to look after him. I really wanted to help him, but my friends wouldn't let me. With friends like that, who needs enemies? I urged him to let me invite Lucille to come and make dinner for us, and he agreed, though it seemed he didn't really want to. I couldn't help but notice he looked a little happy about it. Skiing helped ease my disappointment. Megan and Robin were cheerful and full of fun, and it would have been perfect if Don could have joined us. When we returned from skiing, the house filled my senses with great smells. Lucille stood by the kitchen door, almost like a guard, ready to welcome us. Don was sitting on the couch with his foot propped up when we came in. Hi, Maria, Freddie, Vanessa, Kathy, and my lovely little ones. Did you all enjoy skiing? He asked. Yes, but we're really hungry, I replied, while everyone else hurried up the stairs. They must have been very hungry and eager to freshen up and get back downstairs to eat. I hurried up the stairs after them because I didn't want to slow down dinner. When I returned downstairs, Megan and Robin were there waiting for me. They told me that since Carl and Lucille were here, we would have dinner in the dining room. They also suggested that they wanted to eat there as well. It was quite nice, and I didn't use it much, but if my kids wanted to eat there, I wouldn't say no. The house was filled with amazing smells, as if a big meal was ready. The wooden sliding doors to the dining room were shut. I wondered why they were closed. Megan went through one door and Robin went through the other. They both opened their doors at the same time, placing me in the middle. "Happy birthday, Maria!" everyone yelled. Noisemakers blew, people were clapping, and there was a big banner and balloons with my name on it. Along with the friends I had expected, my friends from the lodge were there too, and even Richard, my ex-husband. He was smiling big and clapping just as loudly as everyone else. Megan and Robin came up on both sides of me to give me a warm hug. They both said at the same time, "Happy birthday!" I glanced over at Don. He had a noisemaker in his mouth and was blowing on it, but for some reason I thought he looked a bit down. The table was full of food. There were 2 big prime ribs covered in garlic, Yorkshire pudding, Dungeness crab, sautéed spinach, asparagus, rolls, pasta with garlic and olive oil, Italian sausage, shrimp scampi, and mashed potatoes. We had enough food to last a week. On the sideboard was a huge cake, all decorated with candles. This was the best birthday I've had since my parents passed away. It felt amazing to be with family. I was so happy that I couldn't stop crying. Megan and Robin sat next to me and kept urging me to eat. Don looked a bit teary-eyed, and he didn't seem very interested in his food either. After dinner, they brought out a cake with 35 candles on it, all lit up. The cake said, "Happy birthday, Maria, we all love you." I hugged Megan and Robin tightly to help me blow out all the candles, and I knew I would need their help with the small fire in front of me. On the count of 3, we all blew out the candles and the cameras clicked. I think the tears in my eyes helped put out the flames. We agreed to save the cake for later since we were all too full. Then, it was my turn to open my gifts. I received many nice and kind gifts from everyone, but when it was time to open the small, heavy box from Dawn, Megan, and Robin, I felt both nervous and hopeful that it would be as special as the gift I got for Christmas. Inside, I found a beautiful brooch made of platinum and diamonds. It matched some of my other jewelry perfectly. I turned it over slowly, looking for a message. It said, "To Maria, thank you for being a part of our lives. With all our love, Megan, Robin, and Dawn. 2/26/09. It was so amazing that I almost lost control. My friends hugged me tightly, and all the women came together to cheer me up and share in my happiness. That night, we danced and played games until nearly 11 o'clock. Then we all got comfy in our pajamas to watch movies made for girls while the men took care of us. Nancy and Lucille, in particular, looked like they were having a lot of fun. The cake was finally cut, and we all dug in. The men stayed in the kitchen playing cards until about 3 in the morning. During the night, we enjoyed cake and ice cream, as well as pizza, stuffed mushrooms, and homemade French fries. Eventually, the men went to bed. Soon after, we all fell asleep on the different couches, chairs, and recliners in the movie room. During the evening, Robin and Freddie took a lot of pictures. I need to get copies of those photos to remember this wonderful night. I finally met Maria's ex-husband, Richard. He seemed like a nice guy. The first thing he did was say sorry for invading my privacy with his snooping. He explained that Maria was like a sister to him, and he felt he had to do everything he could to keep her safe. I took his apology and told him I understood. As I cooked, enjoying Carl's beer and cooking some more, I learned a lot about Richard. He shared that years ago, when Maria was still a model, she used a specific financial firm to manage her money. At that time, Richard was a junior worker at the firm. His job was mostly to pass messages between the important people at the firm and the clients with smaller accounts like Maria. While Richard was working there, the old management team was replaced with a new one. This new team began to make choices that Richard did not like. He was worried that these decisions could put his job at risk. However, he had always had good relationships with the customers he worked with, and he didn't want them to face problems. So he started to give them warnings and helpful advice on how to handle things. Before long, the company ran into trouble. The top bosses didn't want to take the blame, so they put it all on Richard and fired him. This ruined his name in public. I learned from Maria that Richard had grown up without parents. He also didn't have the best school grades because he couldn't afford to go to the better schools. He was in a tough situation. He had very little money saved up, and it seemed like he would never find another job in finance. Maria and some others who listened to his advice managed to get through the financial crisis without any issues. Later, when she asked about Richard at the office, they told her he had been fired. She quickly asked for a cashier's check to get her money and went to find him. She discovered him in his small apartment looking through job listings. Maria asked Richard if he could help her manage her money. She told him he was the only person she could trust with her savings. After that, she reached out to some of the other clients who had worked with Richard before and encouraged them to join her. She was careful not to cause any problems for Richard with his old job. Since these clients had small accounts and there weren't many of them, his previous company hardly noticed when they took their money out. For Richard, starting his own company was a big deal, and he was happy to earn more than he used to. As time passed, he and Maria grew very close, especially after her parents passed away. Richard realized that marrying her was a mistake. They cared for each other, but their feelings were more like those of a brother and sister than a husband and wife. Eventually, they both spoke honestly about their feelings and decided to get a friendly divorce. He told me I should take good care of Maria. He said she was his only family and it was his job to protect her. I didn't think much of it. I had no plans to hurt or marry Maria. We spent a lot of time talking about money and how to invest it. He really impressed me. I could tell he was someone I could trust with my savings. I talked about some of the special programs I made to help me keep an eye on my investments. He seemed interested and wanted to see them. In return, he shared some helpful tips about other data sources that could help me invest more safely and make my programs better. By the end of the night, I felt like all the information he shared was just a way to take my mind off things. He and Carl really beat David and me in Pinochle. To get back at them, I made sure that David and I took the last 2 beers Carl had. On Wednesday, Maria stopped by like she usually does, but we forgot to tell her that we had canceled the therapy session for that night. My daughters and I decided to celebrate Maria's birthday a day early, which was tomorrow. When Maria got here, we had a big banner up and balloons and cake were ready on the table. I thought they might be tired of chocolate, so I made a white cake with raspberry and lemon filling. Maria was so happy that she became a little emotional. She asked Megan and Robin to sit right next to her at the table. For dinner, I made the Korean pork dish that they really enjoyed. Afterwards, it was time to give out gifts again. They were throwing me another party. I was so happy. I wished we could all go to a special place, somewhere we could begin new lives together forever. After dinner, we blew out the candles on the cake, and then I got even more gifts. I received toys. No one had given me toys since I was a child, and it was so much fun. They gave me 4 Nerf guns, 2 big ones and 2 small ones with holsters and lots of darts. Then Megan, Robin, and Don reached behind the couch, opened up cabinets, and pulled out even more Nerf guns with holsters and straps. They had some of the wildest designs I had ever seen. Megan had a big gun that looked like it had a belt attached to it. Robin stood in front of me, pumped her gun, and said with a mischievous smile, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" The battle was truly on. We kept switching teams and ran all around the apartment, having fun and even moved our game down to the basement. At one point, Don and I teamed up and had to protect the kitchen. By that time, we were hungry again and wanted a snack. Just as we got the food on the plates, my girls surprised us with some hidden toys, and we quickly ran out of the kitchen. To make our loss even worse, Megan and Robin ate the snack we had just made for ourselves, and they did it loudly. Don and I decided to fight back by getting ready for an ambush outside the hallway that led to the bathrooms and bedrooms. At last, on the evening of February 25th, we all agreed to a peace treaty, bringing an end to the big Nerf battle in Don's apartment. It was a long and tough fight, and I can only hope we won't have to do it again until we have it at my mountain home. I just need to find a better toy that can hold more darts first. That night, we watched movies, but we could only use small Nerf guns that fire 1 dart at a time. and we could only use them to defend ourselves, as the rules said. The next morning, on my real birthday, everyone sang happy birthday to me at breakfast. I got lots of hugs and kisses from my little ones, and even a nice kiss on the cheek from Don. I wished for a kiss on the lips instead. But it was still a great birthday week. The big change in my life began at Maria's during dinner on Saturday night. I remember skiing that day and seeing some intense talks between Maria and her friends. My daughters seemed to understand what was happening and found it all quite amusing. That night, Vanessa talked to me at dinner. "Don, you've been doing really well in your dance lessons recently, so we've decided it's time for your first practice date." "Does that mean I'm not a dork anymore?" "No, you're still a bit of a dork, but we love you just the same," Freddie replied with a smile. "There's a nice dinner and dance club that opened a couple of years ago. They focus on ballroom dancing and have a small live band playing on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Instead of going to the gym this Thursday night, how about we go out for dinner and check out your moves on the dance floor?" "Vanessa, that sounds fun. But don't restaurants like that have expensive food that isn't very good? I would much rather cook dinner for you at my place. I'll make whatever you want, and we can still act like we're on a real date, both at my apartment and at the dance club. What do you think?" Vanessa's eyes brightened when I said I would make her anything she liked. If I wanted to try my new way of meeting more women, I thought I should also include cooking. That would make it more fun. "Why, Don, I think." She began to speak, but Kathy suddenly jumped in with a strong look on her face. "Wait a minute. We said you could go first, Vanessa, but no one knew that Don would be cooking for his first practice date. I believe we need to talk about this again." The other women looked ready to jump in, so I decided to calm things down. "I'm really glad you all enjoy my cooking. You know how I feel about restaurant food. I'd much rather cook for all my practice dates than spend a lot of money on average meals. Just let me know what you want, and I'd love to make it for you. Please don't worry about anything else I've cooked for you except for the turkey. That takes too long to make." My words seemed to make everyone happy, and they smiled big, except for Maria. She still looked a little sad. On Thursday, Vanessa came over at 6:30. I had made prime rib, Yorkshire pudding, and the pie. I thought about having some fun with the scene since it was just practice, but she said on Tuesday night that I should take it seriously. We greeted each other with friendly kisses at the door. I enjoy friendly kisses from lovely ladies, even if they are just nice gestures. Before dinner, I gave her a quick tour of the apartment. Since it was her first time inside, she looked a little surprised when she saw the guest bedroom. "Vanessa, you look wonderful tonight." She wore a bright red dress, maybe a little short, but I wasn't going to say anything. "Did you see that I'm wearing the jewelry you got me?" She paused and held up her bracelet for me to see. "I receive a lot of nice comments about these pieces. Thank you again for such a wonderful gift." "I can't take all the credit, Vanessa. Ken is the one who really helped me out. I'm just so happy that you, Maria, Freddie, and Kathy like them. You've done so many great things for me and my family. What you're doing for me tonight is really kind, and I want to find a way to thank you for your kindness. Making dinner and covering the club bill is thanks enough, Don. I can take the leftover pie home with me, right?" Her question sounded a little serious. I quickly told her that she could definitely take the pie home. A long time ago, I made too many pies for myself and got a bit tired of them. Right now, I was making a different kind of lemon meringue pie. I wanted it to taste as refreshing as a glass of lemonade made with real lemons. However, I hadn't gotten it right yet. I enjoy adding fruit spreads to my Yorkshire pudding for something different. Today, I chose cherry almond butter to try. At first, it felt a bit awkward being alone with Vanessa, but as soon as she started eating, her true nature came out, just like the tiger on her bracelet. I had no idea tigers liked cherries. Vanessa and I both love staying fit and strong, but we often don't have enough time during the week to exercise. I thought we had covered all our usual talks about working out together, but we found so many new activities to discuss. We talked about hiking, biking, swimming underwater, and jumping from planes. I hadn't gone scuba diving in a long time, and I really missed it. I had always wanted to try skydiving, too. Recently, it seemed like Vanessa was suggesting a dive vacation to places like Hawaii, the Florida Keys, or the Cayman Islands. It almost felt like she might like me more than as a friend. But that couldn't be right. Just because she's a woman doesn't mean she feels that way. She probably just wants someone to dive with. After dinner, Vanessa enjoyed 3 big slices of the pie. I couldn't believe it after all the prime rib and Yorkshire pudding she had just eaten. Just as we were about to leave the house for the club, she suddenly looked worried. I had a good idea what was bothering her. "Dawn, can I use your bathroom for a minute?" "Vanessa, please don't think I'm rude, but you just had a big meal, so don't hurry. I want you to feel good tonight. It's fine if you take an hour or even longer. The only thing worse than having a bad stomach or feeling too full and needing to use a dirty public restroom is having no restroom at all. I'll take a quick look at my computer while I wait. You can take your time." A smile of relief appeared on her face. "Thank you, Dawn," she said, and she hurried off to the main bathroom. I didn't really need to use my computer, but I wanted her to see that I wouldn't just be sitting around while she used the bathroom. Maybe I should have given her a magazine to read. She was in the bathroom for a long time. I know my cooking didn't make her feel unwell, she just ate a lot. When I heard her come out, I acted like I was busy on the computer. I didn't want her to feel awkward. I could hear her footsteps coming slowly down the hall. "Dawn, are you there?" "I'm here in my office, Vanessa. Sorry, I lost track of time. I was just checking out the latest tool deals. I've been thinking about getting something new, but it never seems to be on sale." When she walked into my office, I noticed she looked a bit shy. I turned off my computer and got up. "I'm ready to leave." We walked to her car. It was a white Mustang GT 500 with red stripes. I usually prefer practical things over fancy ones. I'd rather have a minivan that I can fill up with stuff than a sleek sports car. After seeing Vanessa's new car, I realized I might need to change my priorities. I was really impressed with the car. "I hope you don't mind if I drive, Dawn. This club can be a bit hard to get to, but I know the best places to park," she said. As I got comfortable in the passenger seat, I replied, "I don't really like driving. I do it because I have to. I'd be much happier being driven around for the rest of my life. Right now, I'm in a really cool sports car, and a very pretty woman is driving it. I know it sounds a bit old-fashioned, but I can't help but feel excited." I smiled at her. "You're forgiven, you silly guy. I just had a delicious meal and I have half a pie left. I'll even let you make a funny noise in my new car," she said with a grin. Her joke was a bit cheeky, but we were good friends who enjoyed working out together. I can't remember how many times one of us was really working hard during some exercise, and then suddenly we would let out a big, funny noise. You just have to laugh. It happens. Sometimes it was so loud it shook the room, like a surprise sound. Ha ha. Oh boy, was that a silly joke. The club was lively, but it wasn't too crowded since it was Thursday night. That was great because it meant we had plenty of space to dance. I had gotten better at waltzing, so I wasn't too embarrassed anymore. But I was still new to the tango and even less so with other dances. Vanessa was my main practice partner, and we danced well together. Her short red dress surprised me more than once, especially when she spun around. Maria might be a better dancer, but for this crowd, Vanessa was drawing a lot of attention. She had a big group of fans following her. Every time we sat down, someone would come over to talk. Even the owner, Ava, visited us. She was really nice. She was just a year or two older than me and already owned such a great place. We ended up staying until midnight, even though we had planned to leave by 11. We were having so much fun that we decided to stay until the end. Almost everyone else did, too. When I went to pay our bill at the bar, I found out that everything was free. I did leave a nice tip for our waiter, though. While I got our coats, I saw Vanessa talking to Eva one last time. Eva gave her something and then left. Vanessa was so excited on the way back to my apartment. "We really rocked it tonight, Dawn." "You did well." "Huh? What do you mean? Seriously? You really don't notice much, do you? Why do you think everyone was looking at us? Why do you think people kept stopping by our table to talk? Because you're pretty and a good dancer, right?" "Thanks for the compliment, but that's not the whole story. You're good-looking, too. In fact, you're quite attractive. Did you see that more than half the people who came to our table were women? We really shined on the dance floor. You might not know a lot of dances yet, but the few you do know, you do really well. Plus, it was clear that we were having a great time dancing. That kind of energy spreads. It's no wonder everyone stuck around until the end. We made the place lively. The owner even gave us all our drinks for free tonight because she saw we were helping bring in more customers. As we were leaving, she handed me a couple of VIP cards. Now we can park close, get in for free, and enjoy a 10% discount on anything we buy. I've visited this place lots of times, Don, with some really great dancers, but I've never received this kind of treatment before. You know how you like your classic movies, Don? Well, tonight, we felt like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I was surprised by Vanessa's excitement, but I couldn't help thinking she was mistaken. You don't just change from being a shy person to a dancing star like Fred Astaire in a few months. Still, I didn't make a fool of myself, and that's something I can feel good about. Vanessa dropped me off at my house and then headed back to her own place. For a weekday, we had stayed out really late. I was so upset that all I could do was cry and hit the pillows on my bed. I should have been the first one to have a nice dinner at Don's apartment. I should have been the first person to take Don dancing. It would feel even worse if he and Vanessa had a wonderful time together. It was my own fault. I was too scared to ask him out for practice. What if someone I knew saw us and called me that awful name? I was just too well known in Seattle. Why did I have to deal with my old reputation after my divorce from Richard? People had moved on from the old me. Robert was not someone to judge others. He had his own issues that he kept hidden. But with Don, I would feel too embarrassed if he discovered my secrets. Vanessa, Kathy, and Freddie were right. For Don's self-esteem, he needed to go out and see how far he has come. But it should have been me. It's so unfair. I broke down again, crying into my pillow. When Vanessa returned to her apartment, she was really upset. She felt unsure about what to do. The night had been nearly perfect, even though her stomach hurt from eating too much. Don had been kind and thoughtful, acting like he was busy on the computer. She began to sway around her apartment, imagining she was back in Don's embrace. In her mind, she could hear the music and dance to 2 full songs. But then, she froze. There might be problems at that dance club. Many of the women in the club were watching Don with eager eyes. Eva, who owned the club, was probably the most interested. Don had mentioned that he and Vanessa were just friends. When Eva asked Vanessa about this, Vanessa had to agree. That was why Eva gave them 2 VIP cards, one for Don and one for herself so they could use them apart. But Vanessa held on to Don's card and didn't give it back to him. It's better to keep temptations away, she thought. There was something in Eva's eyes when she looked at Don that bothered me a lot. But Vanessa had to be honest with herself. She had not been good either. During dinner with Don, she had pretty much suggested that she would love to go on a diving vacation with him. She could easily picture walking along a sunny beach with Don, holding hands. Stop it, Vanessa told herself. You promised Maria. She should get the first chance with Don. Remember how Don has the guest room ready for Maria? Don't try to take him away. As she played with her jewelry, she thought about how Don had given her such nice and expensive gifts for Christmas. A trip for diving, maybe to Hawaii, wouldn't be too costly, and she felt she should get him a gift of the same value. That would be fair. Just 2 friends going on a dive trip together? Wow, that's a really bad lie to tell myself. It's a good thing I can trick myself so easily. She dashed to her computer, logged onto her go-to travel sites, and began to look for diving trips. I invited everyone to Don's apartment so we could drive to my place. I wanted to make sure I was going with my Don, no more hiding it, and my friends. I was tired of lying to myself. No matter what, I would find a way to be with Don. I planned to take my time because I knew he was going to be mine. Vanessa was supposed to drive my SUV with Kathy and Freddie in the back. But at the last minute, Vanessa decided not to drive, and Freddie took the wheel instead. I almost complained, but then I thought about it. Freddie was a decent driver and I had insurance. I needed to relax. I was with my family. When I got into Don's SUV, I felt a little uneasy. Vanessa kept looking at Don with a softness that seemed too much, at least to me. I hoped I was just being overly worried, but I couldn't be sure. Don, how did your practice date with Vanessa go? I asked. Vanessa said it went really well, he replied. But I'm not totally convinced. She might have said that just to make me feel good. I think I didn't do anything too silly, and for my first practice date, that's good enough for me. I wasn't sure how to respond to what he said. It didn't tell me anything, darn it. Vanessa might be hiding the truth to keep Don's feelings safe, or maybe Don is not being honest about things because he feels so low about himself. What did you do? I wanted to see if he could avoid that question. We had dinner and then we went dancing, just like we planned. Don said with a casual shrug of his shoulders. I really wanted to strangle him. Luckily, my two friends in the back seat were there to save me from a long time in jail. Don's unclear answers were making everyone frustrated. Dad, you're being really silly. We want to know exactly what happened, and if you don't tell us, you'll be sorry, Megan said firmly. Yeah, Daddy, tell us everything or no kisses for a month, Robin added. It was just a practice date with Vanessa, for goodness sake. Don't make it a big deal. As I began to say Don, my daughters chimed in with Dad, and we all sang together. All right, fine, let me explain. It was actually kind of dull. Vanessa came to my place, I gave her a tour, and we had dinner. She took us for a drive in her new car. It's a really nice ride. You know me, always so sensible, but I felt a strong desire for that Mustang, he kept on. Maybe I should think about getting him one. Don doesn't often show a strong desire for things, except when it comes to tools. When we arrived at the club, we danced. It felt good to move to a live band. Many people came over to talk to us, and even the owner of the club visited our table often. Eva, the owner, seemed friendly and was around our age. We ended up staying longer than we had first intended. We arrived a bit late, but we were enjoying ourselves, so we chose to stay until midnight. They were really having a good time. When we finally left, I learned that the owner had treated us to our drinks, which was kind. But honestly, we only had a few drinks with alcohol. The rest was just soda water with a twist of lemon. Then, in the car, Vanessa told me that Eva had given us 2 special VIP cards. Vanessa mentioned that we were so lively that we kept the other guests entertained until closing time. She even told me we were almost like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers for the night. Now, please don't tell her I said this, because she seemed so happy with that VIP card, but that's just not true. She is a lovely woman and a nice dancer, but I am not Fred Astaire, and there's no way we could keep a crowd at a club until it closed. Oh no, it was worse than I expected. I shared surprised glances with Megan, who looked like she kind of understood what her dad had done, but Robin seemed really confused. I had met Eva before. She was a bold and tough woman. She never gave anything without wanting something in return. For Don and Vanessa to be so great on the dance floor, they must have a strong connection, especially since Don is still a beginner. Wow, I used to be a dancer, and I never got a special card for that club. I felt like crying again, but I couldn't do that in front of Don, Megan, and Robin. Don rescued me by taking out the Yahtzee game. He never seemed to play any music anymore. That was a relief because I don't think I could have sung a single note. At the same time, in the special spy car of the PDA security group, Sister D-Day, Flounder, and... Never mind. Freddie, Kathy, and Vanessa were chatting in Maria's SUV about pretty much the same thing. Vanessa had already shared the same story that Don told Maria, but she kept going. Friends, I've got a big problem, and it's really bothering me. I've been spending a lot of time with Don lately, almost as much as I have with Maria. We have clicked really well at my gym. Last night felt almost special when we were dancing together, like in those old movies that Don loves. Everyone was watching us, and we felt like we were the stars of the show. I know that Maria wants to be with him first, but I've really started to like Don. After I got home from our date, I almost booked a trip for us to go away. I wasn't thinking about diving at all. I was imagining nice dinners and walks by the sea. Just as I was about to pay with my credit card, I stopped myself. I hadn't even talked to Don about it. He hasn't had the chance to dive in a great place for a long time, and he really wishes he could go. I planned to tell him a story. I was going to say my friend backed out on me and I didn't want the money to go to waste. Don would believe me. He's a kind and careful person. He wouldn't want to see thousands of dollars wasted. I hope Maria doesn't find out. She was the one who stood by me when I had nothing and helped me start my club. I'm really sorry. Please don't tell her. Vanessa began to cry softly. Kathy said, I think we have all been focused too much on Don lately. We care so much about Maria's happiness that we have forgotten about ourselves. I'm still going on some real dates, but you both are so stuck on Don. I get it. He is a good guy. But as they say, there are other people out there. It's time for you two to move on with your lives. It might be a good idea to stay home one weekend and go out to meet some new guys. You've spent most of your weekends for the last 4 months with Maria. It's important to have some fun, too. We all appreciate Maria, but she won't mind if we want to do our own thing once in a while. Plus, there are some really nice guys still skiing at the lodge. In past ski seasons, we've had guys trying to get close to us. It's time for us to get back out there and enjoy ourselves. Do you all agree with me? Vanessa tried hard, but her yes sounded a bit weak. Kathy saw it as a win anyway. Freddie began to say, I agree with you, but I still want to help Maria and Don. I'm looking forward to my practice dates with Don. I think they will be fun, especially his cooking. We have spent 4 months on this project, and I'm okay with sticking with it for a bit longer before I start feeling restless. I owe Maria a lot, and she is my good friend. I also really like Don. I'm not saying you have to feel the same way I do, but this is how I see it. Vanessa said, I really agree with you, Freddie. I just need to push my feelings for Don out of my mind for now. But as you said, Kathy, it's also time for me to start dating again. All right, that sounds good. We'll try our best for at least 2 more months. But we should also make time for some dating in our own lives. Still, there's something else you both should think about. When we told Don that we would be arranging real dates for him, it really upset him. He must have thought that after the kiss from Maria, he had a shot with her. Here we all are, with Maria telling him we are going to arrange dates for him with other women. Don must think that if a woman liked him, she wouldn't want him to go out with someone else. Because of this, he probably thinks Maria doesn't like him that way, which has made him really sad for a long time. The same goes for the 3 of us. Don had a strong interest in Maria, but there were 3 of us single women who had been playfully showing our interest in him for a few months. Don had been on his own for nearly 3 years. It's only natural that he might think about the chance that, if things didn't go well with Maria, maybe one of us would like him too. All at once, we popped his happy thought and told him we wanted to set him up with other girls. Just like Maria had hurt him, we hurt him too. Vanessa gasped, "Oh, no!" She felt a wave of sickness rise up and almost asked Freddie to stop the car so she could get out. If they weren't behind Don's SUV, she probably would have. She had to try her hardest to keep her feelings in check. Freddie said, "Oh, no!" and Kathy nodded, understanding what he meant. Yeah, I'm the one who thought it was a good idea to set Don up on real dates. I can't believe I didn't see this big mistake coming. Now we're in a tough spot. We could have achieved the same outcome without all this trouble if I had just kept quiet. We could have simply asked Don to take us on a few practice dates. Then, Maria could turn one of those practice dates into something more special. Maria is clever and caring enough to help Don with his inexperience in a kind way, and Don is smart and understanding enough to not feel hurt by her lessons. I realized I was too caught up in Maria's idea of being a Scarlet woman. But for now, this is the plan we have to follow. I can't take back what I said about real dates without telling Don that Maria likes him. But she's just not ready for him to know that. It was a typical weekend at Maria's house, or so it seemed. Everyone was nice to my kids, and we did the usual things. However, the women around me were acting as odd as a gopher wearing a spacesuit. No one ever said anything mean to me, but the way they moved, spoke, and looked at me made me feel like I was part of a strange study. Sometimes I thought Maria was upset with me. Other times she seemed sorry or down. Vanessa, on the other hand, switched between looking sad and, if I didn't know better, I might think she was being shyly caring toward me. Freddie, the life of the party, loved to have fun and go with the flow. She was darting back and forth between Maria and Vanessa in a happy hurry. Sometimes she would pause and share a warm hug with me, as if she wanted to comfort me about something. Kathy was the only one who seemed steady. She looked upset with herself for most of the weekend. I felt like going home because the whole thing was driving me a bit crazy. But my 4 lovely friends were acting just fine around the girls. I just smiled and dealt with the confusion. Luckily, I always carry some Zantac with me. For the first time, I noticed my friends trying to talk to others on the slopes and at the lodge. Maria was always nearby. Kathy was the most outgoing of the group. Freddie tried a few times to meet new people, but then she stopped and came back to hang out with Maria, my other friends, and me. Vanessa was acting a bit strange. She began talking to a guy, then looked up and saw us. Quickly, she rushed back to our group, as if she felt bad about chatting with him. On Sunday morning, I came down the stairs just in time to see Freddie and Maria having another heated talk. Breakfast was a bit odd that day. When I entered the kitchen, I noticed Vanessa busy making food. She had never cooked for us before. The table was ready, and the food items were laid out by the stove. She must have woken up at least 30 minutes early. She was cooking omelets and asked what we wanted in them. Megan was still half asleep, so Robin smiled as she turned Megan's sleepy words into ham, Swiss cheese, and onions. When Vanessa was putting my omelet on the plate, she looked so focused that it seemed like she was doing something very important. Like always, when you work hard at something, sometimes it doesn't go as planned. The omelet broke in half, and some of it fell to the floor. She looked so sad that I thought she might cry. I understood how she felt. I had cooked her so many delicious meals, and now she wanted to make something nice for me, but the omelet fell apart. I really felt for her. It took a little time to help her feel better, so I gave her a hug and softly rubbed her back. For a brief moment, I found it funny when I turned to glance back at the kitchen table over Vanessa's shoulder. I caught sight of Maria looking surprised. When she saw me, her face changed, and she quickly got up to help clean the mess on the floor. She might have been upset about it, but accidents can happen. Maybe she was just having a tough morning. Finally, we all managed to sit down at the table. Vanessa and I were finishing the last 2 omelets. The table felt unusually quiet. Normally, we would all be talking and joking around, especially about how sleepy Megan always seemed. It was fun to hear her mumble back at us. But today, things were different. Megan looked awake and ready to join us. It felt strange, almost like the world had flipped upside down. I often wondered if Megan was really this alert on weekends or if she was just pretending. I once had a calm chat with her about this. I wanted to make sure she was okay with the teasing because it was all meant to be light-hearted. Still, I know that teasing can sometimes hurt, and I would rather feel pain myself than let anyone hurt my little girl. She told me she understood it was just for fun, and that there was no bad feeling behind it. She even suggested that she liked it because it was a way to get attention. I thought she was starting to see our new friends as more like a caring family instead of just friends. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Finally, Vanessa spoke up. "Dawn, how do you like your omelet?" "It's really good, Vanessa." I took a big bite of the omelet to show her I meant it. To be honest, I don't usually eat omelets, but you never want to hurt the cook's feelings. I wanted to make at least one meal for you since you've cooked for me so many times. I have a little problem with my schedule. I need to take care of some personal matters, so if it's okay with you, we will have to cancel our Thursday night workouts together. Vanessa looked at me with a hint of sadness. I really liked spending time with her. Having a workout partner was nice, but I got it. I completely understand, Vanessa. You've spent so much time helping me get better. You've even put your own life on hold for it. I want to let you know how much I appreciate everything you've done for me. Thank you so much for your help. After I said this, I could almost hear Maria beside me let out a breath of relief. Then Freddie jumped in to speak. "Dawn, don't think you can have Thursday nights free now. From now on, Thursdays will be your extra practice nights. Vanessa told us about your evening out last night while we were watching our movie. It seems like you did even better than anyone expected. You should be proud of yourself. This Thursday, it's my turn to be your practice date. How does that sound? Do you think you're ready for me?" Freddie gave me a playful smile. "I'm not sure. I need to check with my team first." "All right, my little darlings. Is Daddy ready for this fun adventure?" I said with a smile. Robin quickly chimed in, "Sure, but no mushy stuff on the first date." Megan looked over at Maria before she said, "If you promise to be home before midnight and wear clean clothes that evening, then I'll let you go." "Thanks a lot, Moms." "Freddie, my moms say I can go, so what do you want to do?" "How about we go to the art museum? There's a special show about American art. For dinner, you will make me a lettuce wrap with fried shrimp and fried squid. And don't forget the pie for dessert. I will be at your house at 5:30, and we will leave for the art museum by 7. "Okay, I'll have one Korean special with no pork, and I'd like some sea monkeys, too." I was really mad about Dawn's date. I wanted to grab a big stick and shout, "He's mine! Go away!" I imagined taking Dawn away, locking him up, and bringing him to a quiet cabin on a mountain that I knew about. But the only thing that kept me from doing that was my friends. How could I ever tell them about it? How could I walk away from them while taking their dad with me? I realized this situation was my own doing, but I found it really hard to keep my cool. I wanted to be near Dawn, but when I felt like I was about to lose my temper, I would step away for a little while to calm down. The way Vanessa acted around Dawn was making me uncomfortable. I could tell that Vanessa saw Dawn as more than just a friend now. Still, I knew she was a close friend I could trust and would never let me down. When she glanced at Dawn, a shy look of wanting appeared on her face. But when she turned to me, her expression changed to one of guilt and sadness. I cared for Vanessa like the sister I never had, just like I did for Kathy and Freddie. Still, I had found Dawn first, and I believed she would understand that. But our talk this Saturday night was not going to be easy. If it came down to it, I could always use a big stick to make my point, and I had found a nice one in the garage. I believe it was an old axe handle, but it looked new. I wouldn't hurt her too much, just enough to make my point clear. I cooked dinner that night, but since Freddie is a vegetarian, it was tough to find something everyone would enjoy. Don always manages to do it. How does he do that? Everyone seems to enjoy Dungeness crab, so I decided to serve that again. For dessert, I made 2 blueberry cheesecakes all by myself. For the last month and a half, I had quietly been practicing how to make cheesecakes. I wanted to perfect my recipe. My ex-husband, Richard, and his co-workers were my taste testers. They grew tired of having cheesecake so often. Almost every Wednesday and Friday, I would walk into his office with a cheesecake for lunch. Things got so difficult that all his workers began to avoid me. But Richard, the good guy, stood tall and tried everything, giving his best opinions on it all. The cheesecake was a big success. Everyone enjoyed it and went back for seconds, even though they were already full from the crab. I even noticed Don looking to see how much was left. He didn't say anything about wanting another piece because he's trying to stick to his diet. That evening's dance lessons were especially hard for me. At first, Vanessa felt tense and awkward with Don, but soon she relaxed and moved smoothly while dancing. Eva was smart to give them a special card, and I was right about their strong connection. My heart sank, making me feel empty inside. It hurt to feel that way, and my stomach was in knots. I used what I learned in my modeling classes. The dress feels snug. Just smile. The shoes are uncomfortable. Smile. You might be worried about losing your boyfriend's smile. I noticed some little mistakes that Don was making, so I decided to dance with him and show him the right steps. For only the second time since I began teaching him, I played the song Moon River, and we waltzed to it twice. We moved well together. We weren't as smooth as Vanessa and Don, but we were still pretty good. We just needed a bit more practice. Starting now, I will dance with him every Wednesday. We have done this before, but we need to move the furniture in his living room to make enough room. This usually stops us from dancing, but I've seen his gym in the basement, and it's big enough for us to dance there. It makes sense since the basement belongs to the whole apartment building, not just his apartment. Other tenants can't use it, except in a few special situations. One of the nice bonuses he gave himself after finishing the building was adding a wooden floor in both his gym and workshop. He didn't like walking on the hard cement. The wooden floor is a bit rough, but I believe it could work as a dance floor. If I take some time to clean it up, I can make it look and feel even better. Don even has a sound system down there so he can enjoy his music while he works out. When the classes ended, Don went up to his room to take it easy in bed and watch TV. The rest of us girls headed to the movie room. It was time for me to face off against Vanessa. While everyone else stayed in the movie room, I took Vanessa's hand and softly led her to my office. She looked really upset, but she came with me without any fuss. Once I closed and locked the door, I felt relieved. No more interruptions. I looked at her and said, "Vanessa, you know I care about you like family. I believe you are a good person. I also saw you have an amazing time dancing with Don. Since then, you've seemed a bit dreamy. I'm not angry, but I do feel a bit jealous, and I want to win Don's attention too. Can you share with me what you're feeling?" That's when Vanessa started to cry. Oh no, this isn't really my role. I hurried over to her, wrapped my arms around her, and gave her a comforting hug. I tried to say the usual things like, "It's okay, everything will be fine, we'll work through this together." But deep down, I wasn't sure if that was true. My heart was hurting too, but I needed to stay strong for myself, for my friend, and for Don. We sat down on the couch, and she finally began to speak, though her voice was often interrupted by quiet sobs. "Maria, I'm so sorry, I didn't see this coming." I teased about liking Don because he's a really nice guy, but I never wanted to go after him since I knew you liked him. It just came out by mistake. I exercise with Don 4 times a week. I also dance with him twice a week as his practice partner. We go skiing together 2 times a week, and often I teach him. Sometimes it's just the two of us. We had spent a lot of time together, and I didn't notice how close I had become to him until that dinner at his house. Wow, it all started at dinner, not on the dance floor. Then we went to the club, and even though you might not want to hear this, that night felt special to me. I really didn't want to hear it, but I had to. I was never a big-time model like you were, but suddenly, in a room full of people, I felt like the star. It was not just about my looks, and it felt great. Don helped me reach that level. He showed me how to be my best and made me glow. I know Don has his own issues and strange habits, but he is truly dependable. That's the best way to describe him. When I was with him on the dance floor, I felt like I was with a real man, not just another guy. We want to help him shine on the outside, but he already has everything a great man should have on the inside. I think my face showed how scared I was. No, Maria, I won't chase after him, not while you like him. I've started to like him a bit, but I'm sure he doesn't see me that way at all. I'm just his workout partner and his strict trainer. I talked to Kathy and Freddie, and we all agreed that my main issue is that I've been with Don too much and not spending enough time with my friends. I felt really guilty all of a sudden. For more than 4 months, I had taken too much of my friend's time because of my feelings for Don. There, I said it. In all that time, I didn't think about what my friends needed or how they were doing. Oh, what a selfish and greedy person I've been. I didn't deserve to be your friend. Vanessa, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I've been so focused on myself. I didn't think about you three and your lives. You must all hate me. I've been a bad friend. For all these months, it was only about me. How can you ever forgive me? I made this mess because I couldn't be brave enough to tell Don the truth about my past. Then I started to cry, and Vanessa came over to help me. Don't worry, Maria, it's okay. We all care about you. We get it. You're just in love, and your mind is on him and his friends. You've always been a great friend to us. When I didn't have anything, you helped me out. You did the same for Kathy and Freddie, too. The only job skills we had were in modeling, and then everyone started saying we were too old for it. All 3 of us had messy first marriages. Freddie and I agreed to those prenups that let our ex-husbands take advantage of us. Kathy married that guy, and I still don't understand why she's drawn to troublemakers. He wasted all her money. Then you appeared like a hero, but by that time, we had lost everything. When you helped me, I was about to go back to my parents' house. Kathy was almost homeless, and Freddie was thinking about selling her artwork. You helped me turn my passion for working out into a thriving business. You turned Freddie's talent for art into a real job, and you helped Kathy go back to school. You gave us our self-respect back, and we can never thank you enough. You've always been there for us, and now it's our turn to support you. Now, Kathy, Freddie, and I have a plan. It's really quite simple, and we're not leaving you behind. The 3 of us are going to start dating again, even though Kathy never really stopped. I plan to work less with Don, and I think we should change his practice partners a little. I know that might not help him learn as well, but I believe it's important. Kathy feels that since we started this silly idea of making Don better, we should stick with it. If we stop suddenly, it could really confuse him. What we think you should do is stay close to him whenever you can. It would be good for Don to have a few more practice dates to help him feel more confident. Maybe he can go out with each of us a couple of times, and then you can make your move. Forget about setting him up on a real date just yet. You probably already know that you'll need to be patient and kind with Don the first time you share a special moment together. He was really patient, kind, and supportive. If he wasn't, he might feel too ashamed to come back, and I might miss my chance with him. About my past, I think Don will be fine with it. I pulled away from her. Everything she said had calmed me down, but I couldn't believe that Don, who came from such a protective family, would accept my past so easily. It seemed impossible. When I tried to get up, Vanessa wrapped her arms around me again in a hug. Wow, she is really strong. She held me close and gently ran her fingers through my hair, speaking softly in my ear. I see how it is. You're not ready to talk to him yet, and you worry he might hate you. I really think you're making a big mistake by letting your fears take over. If you could see it clearly, you would go straight to his room and tell him you love him. You could spend time together, and we would happily look after Megan and Robin for you. But if you want to take your time and face your fears, we will support you. We all care about you, Maria. This was not how I imagined my talk with Vanessa would go. I thought we might argue. I thought I might have to cheer her up. I never expected that I would be the one needing support. We finally settled down, tidied ourselves up, and went back to join everyone in the movie room. Kathy and Freddie looked much easier when Vanessa and I walked back into the room together. Megan and Robin stared at us with raised eyebrows, as if they thought we had been up to something important. I thought it would be nice to have a little fun, so I went to the kitchen to grab the cheesecake. When I arrived, I saw that a large slice was gone. Don, that trickster, must have taken a piece and snuck it up to his room to eat. I felt pleased that he enjoyed it, but should I tell Megan and Robin that he wasn't sticking to his diet, or should I stay silent? I needed to think about it. Everyone got a small slice of cheesecake and a medium slice of the cake that Don had brought. I wondered if it was going to turn into the cheesecake, maybe with some cows mooing in the background. The next morning, I woke up early to prepare breakfast. I wanted to show Don that I could be kind and thoughtful as well. When I walked into the kitchen, I saw Vanessa busy at the stove. She had her back turned, so she didn't notice me. I felt really angry. She had promised me that she wouldn't try to impress Don, and here she was cooking, even though she didn't like to cook. I was planning to prepare something nice for Don myself. What was happening? Just as I was about to go in, Freddie grabbed my arm, turned me around, and put a finger to his lips, telling me to be quiet. I took a breath and stayed still, trying to understand what was going on. She took my hand and led me into the big room away from the kitchen. "What's happening here, Freddie?" I asked, feeling angry. "I thought you might be mad. This is Vanessa's way of saying goodbye to Don. She really cares about him, Maria, but she knows that you love him. Vanessa has never had him at her house, never been on a real date with him, and never made him dinner. This is her way of finding closure. It's a farewell meal, even though it's breakfast. Just let her handle it, okay?" Freddie's worried look only made me feel worse. It reminded me that I was being difficult again. I took a few deep breaths to relax. I understand, it just caught me off guard after what she said last night, especially since she doesn't like cooking. Thank you for stopping me, Freddie, before I made a complete fool of myself. You and Vanessa are both my good friends. I had been so caught up in talking with Freddie that I hardly noticed someone coming down the stairs. When I looked, I saw it was the last person I wanted to overhear us, Don. But he just smiled and said good morning, then walked into the kitchen with his usual calm look. We narrowly escaped a real problem. At breakfast, when Vanessa accidentally dropped Don's omelet on the floor, I was surprised to see him get up so fast to help her. She was really upset. He gave her a hug and gently patted her back, trying to make her feel better. After a little while, once my surprise faded, it became clear that Don was just being a good friend to Vanessa. She leaned into him a little, but she was still trying to keep her feelings in check. The omelet she dropped felt like a goodbye kiss to Don, so I understood why she was so sad. I would never tell her that Megan and Robin mentioned Don didn't like omelets, and I promised to keep that a secret. At breakfast, Vanessa told Don about their new workout plan, and Freddie shared the updated practice dates with him. Once more, I rode home with Don and my girls, but we were starting to get bored of playing Yahtzee. We needed to find a new game to play. Luckily, Don's apartment was a great and safe spot for all of us to meet up and share rides before heading to my mountain house. If I insisted on going with him and my friends, it might seem strange. But if it was just about my friendship with Megan and Robin, it made more sense. As we drove back in the car, I shared my idea about having dance lessons in his gym. Don told me that there was a lot of space, but he wasn't sure if the floor was good enough for dancing. When I got to Don's apartment, I quickly checked out his gym to see the floor. He was right. It was just a basic plywood floor that had been stained and sealed. There were also some big rubber mats near the exercise gear, but that was all. I decided to do something like Don would do. After that, I went back upstairs and talked to him. Don, you're correct about the floor, but when I was younger and taking dance lessons, I spent a lot of time on the dance floor at my studio. I learned some ways to fix up a floor so it can be used better. If it's okay with you, I'll come by early on Wednesday to tidy things up a bit. It won't take me long, I said with a little chuckle. All right. If you let me know what I can do, maybe I can help, Maria. No, really, it'll be easier for me if I just handle everything myself. I was being honest again. Am I good at this or what? How much space can I use for the dance floor? I would like a space that is 20 by 20 feet or maybe even 24 by 24. Where can I place it? We have plenty of room. 24 by 24 is good if you want that size. You can put it in the northeast corner of the gym. I'll move some of the exercise equipment out of the way. That sounds great, Don. Thank you. Why are you thanking me? You're teaching me lessons, and now you're helping to tidy up my gym. I should be, and I really am, thanking you. After finishing my perfect Don, I gave Megan a quick wink to let her know it was her turn. Dad, while we were at Maria's, we made sure to finish all our homework. Freddie, Kathy, Vanessa, and I helped each other during breaks in our Saturday movie night. We thought that, if it's okay with you, and if Maria would like to, we could have a mini movie night here, just the four of us. Sweetheart, Maria is such a great friend to our family. She can stay here anytime she wants. You just need to ask her. But you mentioned the four of us, and I'm not really into those kinds of movies. Oh, that's the fun part, Dad. We were chatting, and Maria really likes Alfred Hitchcock movies. Robin and I enjoy them, too. We could begin with North by Northwest and maybe watch one or two more movies afterward, if that sounds good. When Megan mentioned the movie, Don's attention sharpened like a dog on a scent. Oh, what sneaky girls Megan and I were. I told her I wanted to get to know her dad better, and she was happy to help me. I liked Alfred Hitchcock's movies, and she mentioned that North by Northwest was her father's favorite. I thought of it as a little game. A curious kitten might say, "Come here, little bird," if it saw a sweet little bird nearby. I promised myself to keep going on practice dates, but each time Don looked away, I would be right there. In a month or maybe 2, I would make my move. That sounds fun, watching a Hitchcock movie with the four of us. What do you think, Maria? It was getting better and better. Don had asked me. Next month would be my chance, and soon I'd have what I wanted. Well, I really just wanted Don and my friends. Trying to take over the world would probably be too much work. That sounds great, Don. What's for dinner? Wait, where did that come from? I guess I should thank Don for his amazing cooking. I was starting to feel trapped by it. Don looked a bit embarrassed. Uh-oh, did I go too far? I felt like one of Pavlov's dogs. Seeing Don made me think about food. Nothing much. I was just going to make grilled cheese sandwiches, French fries, and tomato soup for dinner. Something simple and quick. For dessert, I might make blueberry cobbler with ice cream. It won't be as good as your cheesecake, though. Does that sound good? Don made French fries and bread for the sandwiches, and I thought I could manage that. He also said my cheesecake was better than his cobbler. It got better when Robin joined in. Yeah, Maria, your cheesecake was really good. We think it's the best we've ever tasted. It's as good as the cake, and maybe even as good as the pie. Wow, I felt like I should be given an award for my cheesecake. Just no pictures, please. Then it happened, Megan spoke up. It was just amazing. Daddy even took a third piece. Naughty Daddy, naughty, naughty Daddy. Don looked really sad, like a little boy caught doing something wrong. I felt like getting closer to him, giving him a gentle pat on the head and saying that everything would be okay. I think we should have a vote, but I believe your cheesecake should now be called the cheesecake. I heard it then, the sound of cows mooing, and it sounded like there were so many of them. Moria, Moria, Moria. The cows were stampeding everywhere. It felt like we needed to run for our lives. Then, I heard Don's voice, and I felt him shaking my shoulders. Moria, Maria, Maria, are you okay? I looked at him. You seemed a bit lost just now. How to get a man's attention? Just act a little crazy, I thought. I tried to hide my embarrassment. I was so excited when Megan picked my cheesecake that I lost my focus. That's okay. We voted, and it didn't pass 2-1. I'm sorry, Maria. I felt really sad, like my dreams were crushed. But then, Megan and Robin both shouted, Daddy, you big liar! We all voted yes! I turned my attention to Don, my target. I was really mad. He stepped back quickly, a big smile on his face, showing all his teeth. He would definitely need a quick visit to the dentist after I was done with him. I began searching for something to use as a weapon when Robin handed me a funny doorstop. It looked like a big, plump, stuffed chicken and seemed more like a silly pillow than anything useful. I wasn't sure it would work until Robin said something encouraging. There's a brick at the bottom of it. I smiled as I took it from her, but Don's happy face quickly turned serious, and he started running away. Megan shouted, "Don't hurt him! We need him for dinner!" I shouted back my dad's saying about hunting. "Don't worry, we always eat what we catch." The chicken was hard to hold, so I needed both hands. I managed to hit it twice before it broke free and ran outside. His training was tough, and he was still faster than me. Megan and Robin came outside and cheered me on, but I had to give up because I was too tired and hungry. When he returned to his apartment, he acted like a timid little lamb for the rest of the night, but I kept the chicken close by just in case he got a bit wild again. Don cooked another amazing meal, even though he was really playing it up, saying he was hurt from my 2 hits. The top of the fake chicken was soft, just like I had first noticed, but the bottom was filled with a heavy block and still had thick padding around it. On top of that, I made sure to only give him a gentle poke with the soft end. What a big baby! After dinner, he hurried to make the cobbler and put it in the oven. While he was busy, my daughters and I changed into our pajamas. This time, I wore a nightgown under my silky robe. It was simple, yet very pretty, and it showed a little leg. Not a lot, just a hint. My fluffy bunny slippers really didn't fit with the outfit, but they felt so nice to wear. Megan and Robin were envious of my comfy robe, so I decided that when we next went shopping, I would buy each of them one, along with some nice slippers. Don finally came out of the kitchen, put the movie in the player, and settled into his chair to watch. I cleared my throat. Ahem. He looked at me, a bit confused. "What's the matter?" he asked. Robin jumped in. "Daddy, you need to wear your pajamas. It's our tradition." "But I don't want to." I caught Don's eye and began to gently touch the chicken I was holding on my lap. "Just a moment, I'll be back soon," he said quickly. "I think I'll call the chicken Roscoe." Megan, Robin, and I talked a lot about how to set up the seats on the couch. We finally agreed that I would sit at one end with Megan to my left, then Robin, and Don would sit at the other end. Robin talked about how, during Christmas, Don had become very hot and red in the face while sitting in the middle of the group. When Don returned to the room, he tried to sit in his chair again. Robin had to say something and pat the couch next to her before he understood. I just looked at him, gently petted Roscoe, and he quickly moved to sit where he was supposed to. "Yes, you are Roscoe. You're a good little chicken, aren't you?" As we promised Don, we decided to watch North by Northwest first. I had noticed how Don liked to sit on the couch. He often put his arm over the back of it. So I did it first. This made him feel uneasy for a while because he kept his right arm in his lap while my left arm rested on the back of the couch. He finally saw that my arm was really close and even touching the back of the girls' heads. There was a big gap between my arm and the wall, plenty of room for his arm. With a big sigh, he rested his right arm on the back of the couch. Dudley Do-Right had fallen for my trick again. Sometimes I wish I had a big mustache that I could twist around. I wonder if Don likes girls who have mustaches. So, during the first movie, I kept my arm resting in one spot, except when Don was serving the cobbler and ice cream. Don thought he had enough room, so he kept his arm in the same place too. About 15 minutes into the second movie, I shifted my arm a little and accidentally touched Don's arm. There was a framed picture above the TV, and the glass in it reflected like a mirror, kind of like the oven in my kitchen at home. I saw Don freeze up and heard him take a quick, deep breath. I gently pressed my arm against his, not hard enough to pull away, but just enough for him to notice. He stayed very still for the rest of the movie, and I think he seemed a little red in the face, too. Maybe I crossed a line that night, or maybe he was just sleepy since it was getting late. When we started the third movie, he chose to go to bed. He told us it was getting late and suggested we move to my room to watch the movie, so my friends and I did just that. Megan was the first to fall asleep. Then I dozed off, and I'm not sure when Robin fell asleep. She might have watched the whole movie for all I know. The next morning started as usual. I had to pull Megan out of bed, then we ate breakfast and I took my friends to school. I had been doing this every Thursday morning for months, and now I added Mondays to my routine. Don doesn't realize it yet, but thanks to Megan and Robin, this is going to happen often. Some of our friends waved at me and I started to feel noticed. It filled me with a nice warmth. After I dropped off my girls, I called Carl about the dance floor I needed. "Where are you, Maria?" "I'm heading back to my condo. If you want a dance floor by Wednesday night, you need to come back now." Carl has always been honest with me, so I did what he said right away. Why am I turning around, Carl? The wood floor needs to get used to the room for at least 2 days before we put it in. It should be in the same temperature and humidity as the room, so we need to buy the flooring today and get it delivered right away. Carl then asked me where the nearest big home supply store was to Don's apartment building. I mentioned the place I see every time I drive by. He suggested that I go there to choose a type of wood or laminate floor that I liked. He said a glueless laminate would probably be the simplest to put in. He also said that his family members, maybe his nephews, could meet me at the flooring desk. They would then get the flooring and take it to Don's apartment. I did what Carl asked me to do. I went to the store, found the flooring I liked that was available, and it cost me around $1,000 with all the little extras I needed. Just as I finished buying the flooring, 2 young men came in. They introduced themselves as Mike and Matt, who were Carl's nephews. Mike had an old van, and they loaded the flooring into it before following me to Don's apartment. I let them inside, found a good spot to hide the flooring in the big basement, and they unloaded it there. 2 hours after Carl asked me to turn around, we finished our work. On Wednesday morning, we all waited for Don to leave for work. Carl came down from the hills with a friend, and his 2 nephews were with us too. When Don drove off, we got busy. Carl was pleased because Don had done a great job, he always does, getting the floor ready for us. Carl said that when Don built the plywood floor, he made sure it was perfectly flat. Last night, it looks like he sanded down any rough spots and cleaned the floor well. I promise you, Maria, this is going to be easy. We're only trying to fit this floor into one corner, not the whole room. That means we can make your dance floor any size you want, and we won't have to cut much at all. We can just lay down the cushion and start putting everything together. You head upstairs to take a break. It's going to get a little messy down here with all the cutting we need to do. Carl, Don has his workshop down here as well. I bet he won't mind if you use it, especially since he borrowed your tools without asking at my house. I showed Carl to Don's workshop. His face brightened when he saw it. I always thought there was something great about that guy, even if he can't dance. This job is going to be a piece of cake. It will take us all day to do it right, but it's still pretty easy. I went upstairs to stay out of the way, and at lunch I brought them something to eat. When Megan and Robin got home from school at 3:30, they were almost finished. By 4 o'clock, they were done. The floor was put in, and it was neat around all 4 sides. Carl had used wide, sloped boards on the outside of the dance floor to make it safer and easier to walk around. The room was about 23 feet by 25. At 4:30, they were in their trucks and set to go home. I had paid each guy $400. I could have given them less, but why would I? I have plenty of money. They did a great job and probably could use the cash. Carl opened the back of his truck and took out a cooler. He grabbed a 6-pack of his homemade beer. "Give this to Don and tell him that if he practices dancing well, I might let him lead next time," he said with a sly laugh as he headed home. Once they were gone, I rushed inside to get dinner ready. I thought that if I cooked dinner and had it ready when Don came home, we would have lots of time to eat before my girls had their therapy session. This way, Don wouldn't have to cook so late, and he could relax a bit tonight. After our dance lesson, of course. When I got home, I was really tired. There was still a lot to do. I needed to prepare our snack before therapy. I was feeling a bit lazy, so I decided to make shrimp cocktail, even though the shrimp wasn't fresh. For dinner, it's hamburgers again. There are a few dishes I can make really well, but I don't have many options. To keep my friends happy, I even started looking at cookbooks and searching for recipes online. Honestly, I don't even enjoy cooking, especially with how much I've been doing it lately. My friends are pretty easy to please, but I know that one big thing they like is the food I make. I'm getting tired of it. All right, if one of them liked me, I could hang out a bit longer. But stop complaining, Don, I told myself. You, Megan, and Robin are doing so much better now than you were 5 months ago. If you need to go to cooking school to keep good things coming, just do it. You know it's a good idea. Maybe you just need a break, or think about quitting your tech job. You don't really need it. I took a few deep breaths to relax and boost my energy. Then I opened my front door. Delicious smells filled the air. Before going inside, I looked down at the ground by the door. Maria still hadn't brought back that chicken. She had begun keeping it on her nightstand and even gave it a name. I might need to ask the police if she needed a special permit for it. Maybe I could suggest she take a class on how to care for chickens. Always make sure your chicken is safe and never aim your chicken at anyone. Stop! I have my chicken and I know how to use it. Book, book, bok! With that in mind, and the yummy smell of food in the air, I walked through my front door and into my home. Hello, I'm back. What smells so nice? Maria came out of the kitchen for a moment, wearing a lovely apron. Welcome home, Dawn. I thought that if I cooked dinner before we left, we would have more time to relax tonight. I made spinach salad, stuffed pork chops, mashed potatoes, snow peas, and fried mushrooms. I remember how much you enjoy mushrooms, and I even got a cheesecake for dessert. Wait, why did I just hear cows mooing for a second? That was strange. How does that sound? I had to close my eyes for a moment to hold back the tears that wanted to come out. A wave of sadness washed over me. I had a nice dream that felt almost real. She is just a good friend. I thought maybe she had some caring feelings that she wasn't using, so she connected with us because of my daughters. That was okay with me. Dawn, are you all right? I didn't want to open my eyes because they were a little wet, but I knew I had to. I'm okay, Maria. It's just so nice to come home to a great meal when you're tired. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. She looked at me with a puzzled expression before heading back to the kitchen. I rushed to the bathroom to splash some water on my face and gather my thoughts. Unchain my heart, because you don't care about me. It took me a little while to pull myself together. Come on, Dawn, you can do this. When I walked back to the dining room, the food was already on the table and everyone else was sitting down. I said sorry for taking my time and then sat down. The spinach salad was really good and it had lots of bacon in it. The pork chops were amazing too. Instead of regular stuffing, there was a tasty mix of cheese, bacon, and onions inside. It felt special to be served by someone who was very wealthy. I happily told Maria how much I liked the meal, and she looked really happy about it. Megan and Robin didn't say as many nice things, but they liked it too, even if it had a bit more cheese and grease than they usually prefer. It was finally time for us to eat something good for us. My usual meals of hamburgers, French fries, grilled cheese, fried coconut chicken wings, and an extra cheesy lasagna were not the best choice for health. I was glad we hadn't gotten sick from not eating right. We decided to keep the cheesecake for another time. After our appointment with the therapist, Maria took us to the gym to work on our dancing. As we walked there, she asked me a question that caught me off guard. Dawn, do you remember the time when that tree fell on my house and you asked if you could help clean up the mess? I hesitated and replied, yes. What have I gotten myself into now? On Sunday night, I said I was going to tidy things up a bit and it shouldn't take me too long. I want you to keep that in mind, along with what you said about the tree. Feeling a bit worried, I followed Maria into my gym. In the northeast corner, instead of a regular piece of plywood, there was a lovely hardwood floor. A sign on the wall read, Maria's Dance Studio, lessons by appointment only. Maria mumbled something about Carl. It seemed the sign surprised her. The floor was likely worth over $3,000 because it was put in quickly. I turned to look at Maria. She met my gaze firmly. Dawn, I don't say this much, but I have a lot of money. I often spend more on clothes in a week than what I spent on this floor. You'd be surprised at how much I pay for some of my bags. The other night, when I came down here and saw how worn out your old floor was, I thought, why wait? I called Carl. He advised me on what to get and organized all the work. It wasn't too costly, and now we have a good place to practice, all right. If Carl had managed this job, Maria likely wouldn't have been too upset. She was correct. She had a lot of money. For her, time and good moments were more valuable than cash. She liked being with my friends and wanted to help me feel more comfortable, but she also wanted a nice floor to dance on. I could accept that. It all made sense when you looked at everything. She wasn't really doing it for me. She wanted to make her own time better. In a way, she spent the money on herself. As for the fact that she didn't ask me first, that was her way of getting back at me for what happened with the tree. I gave her a look. Are we good now? Yes, we're good now, Dawn. Let's shake on it. I made my hand wet and held it out to her. Do people really do that? Gross! She stepped back, shivering a little. I smiled because I got her again. I went into the bathroom to wash my hand. When I returned, I promised I was only away for a few minutes. She was holding that silly chicken again. She shot me a sharp look from under her lowered eyebrows. With the chicken watching us, we danced for about an hour and a half. When we finished, they tried to convince me to watch another movie, but I was too tired. So I went to bed while they took the DVD to Maria's room. The next morning, we stuck to our usual routine. Maria looked at me oddly when I talked about my date with Freddie tonight. When I got home that evening, I saw Freddie already there, holding a small grocery bag. "Hey, Don, what's up?" "Not much, Freddie. What do you have in the bag?" "Your cooking is good, Don, but it could use a little more heat. This is something that can make the lettuce a lot more interesting." I felt a little uneasy thinking about what those spices might do, but Freddie just smiled. I showed her around the house, showing her the usual places. She was eager to see Mar, the guest room, and she asked to see my workshop, too. She was really impressed. Kevin was down there, and she talked with him for a few minutes before we went back upstairs for dinner. I cooked the shrimp, squid, garlic, and onions while Freddie cut up some jalapeno peppers and made her special sauce for the lettuce wraps. Everything was ready in half an hour, and we sat down to eat. "Freddie, I am so amazed by all the things you do at your studio. You paint beautiful pictures of nature and the ocean, and you also do tattoos and custom body art. What happened to bring us here?" "Back in high school, I loved skiing, and I was painting too. I thought painting could be my job one day. But then, a modeling scout noticed me at a ski lodge. I began modeling to promote ski clothes and gear, and that opened doors to other opportunities. I got distracted by money and moved away from my dream. Near the end of my modeling journey, I met my ex-husband, Kevin. Oh, what a mistake that was. I had saved more than $200,000, and I worked really hard for it. My lawyer, who was a woman, promised that the agreement I signed would keep us both safe. I was only married to that guy for 2 years, and in the end, I lost everything. He was unfaithful and left me with nothing while he took all the money with a smile. His lawyer claimed that I had spent all my money during those 2 years. No way. I'm not someone who spends a lot. Kevin was in real estate, and he had taken my money to invest, but he kept it all for himself. That stupid lawyer I hired just shrugged and left me quickly. After that, she never answered my calls. Eventually, she even moved to another town and set up a new office. Thinking about that jerk I married makes me really angry. I'm sorry for reminding you of something painful, Freddie. I totally understand. She reached across the table and took my hand. I know you do, and that's why I can share my feelings with you. But someday I'm going to find Kevin again, and when you do, if you need support, I'll be right there. We've got a whole ocean to hide the evidence. I smiled at her, letting her know I was just joking. She smiled back, but it was more like a shark's smile. I was really short on cash. I just had my car and about $1,000. The only way I knew to make money was through modeling, but I didn't think I looked good enough anymore. Maybe I should have gone back to my parents, but I felt like a disappointment, and they had warned me about Kevin, so I just couldn't. It was summer, and I had no chance of getting a job as a ski instructor, and even then, it didn't pay much. All I could think about was taking my clothes off. I thought I looked good enough for that. Well, Maria had been away, but someone told her I was in a tough spot, so she came back quickly to help me. She offered me a place to stay and let me cry on her shoulder. After that, she sat with me to think of a new job. Deep down, I really wanted to be a painter, but I didn't believe in my skills enough to really try. For many years, I spent time painting on my friends and even doing some small tattoos the traditional way. I really like working on people. It's like they are a living canvas that is always on display. I had heard for a while that skilled tattoo artists can earn a good living. I believe in my talent enough to think I could do that, even though it's not simple. Maria helped me create a portfolio, and then I began visiting tattoo artists along the West Coast. My training lasted about 2 years, which is quite quick, and I gained a lot of knowledge from the woman I trained with. After that, I returned to Seattle to open my own shop. During that whole time, Maria helped me out completely. I'm still trying to pay her back, but she won't accept any money from me. She says she has plenty and that it was a birthday gift. Well, I started a studio, and I began to gain a good reputation. I had enough friends who supported me, so it wasn't too hard for me to do well. It also helped that my sister is very creative. She made some special paints that are great for body art. Some people aren't sure if they really want a tattoo, while others just don't want one at all. My sister gave me some paints that are really pretty. They are strong and last a long time. With the right cleaners, you can take them off easily, too. I'm not sure if they have official approval, but my sister says they're safe, and so far I haven't had any problems. I've done well enough that I can go back to what I really love: painting. Don, I like chatting with you, but let's eat first, and then I'll tell you more at the museum. We had dinner, and the strong smell of the hot sauce Freddie made my eyes water and stung my nose. After we finished dessert, Freddie was determined to take the leftover pie home with her. As I walked to the car, I took my keys out of my pocket. Freddie said, "Don, Vanessa mentioned that you don't like driving. Let's take my car instead." "Freddie, I don't mind driving. Plus, your van looks really old and ready to break down at any moment." I was also worried about Vanessa's driving skills. She was known for being a bit wild behind the wheel, along with her friends. I meant car, not van. Let's take my new car. I always found it hard to say no to a new car. "What new car?" I asked. She pointed to a shiny BMW station wagon. I needed something big enough to carry my artwork safely. I wanted a car that could handle well on the road, and this one fits the bill. "Freddie, have you ever been in an accident? Your friends have shared some really scary stories about your driving." "Don, I promise I've never been in an accident." She raised her right hand as if she was swearing to tell the truth. With that, I climbed into the car, and she joined me. Just 5 minutes later, I had my eyes shut as tightly as possible. I wanted to see my kids one more time before anything happened. Much sooner than I expected, we arrived at the museum. I slowly let go of the armrests and looked over at Freddie. She had a big smile on her face, and I could tell she was about to say something unkind, questioning my bravery. I held up a finger to warn her as her mouth opened. "Be careful, or you won't get the pie again." She quickly closed her mouth, surprised. We got out of the car and walked into the museum, where we showed our tickets. As we admired the different pieces of American art on display, Freddie started her story again. I began taking more art classes right after I returned to Seattle, but I didn't try to sell my work until 2 years later. At first, I had some small successes. About a year after that, a local gallery displayed my artwork along with 2 other artists. The gallery owner, Madeline, was very excited about our paintings. We all believed that we were finally moving from being struggling artists to being able to pay our bills artists. I was already able to pay my bills with my tattoo business, but my friends Ben and Alice needed some help with their money. Everything was going well until a local art critic showed up. His name is Thomas Harris. He comes from England and writes for both local and national newspapers and magazines. He also advises people and businesses on buying art. The name Thomas Harris sounded familiar to me. I have never liked anyone named Tom. I guess I have bad luck because everyone I've met with that name has been rude and unpleasant. They seem like people who don't deserve respect. Even my old boss was named Tom. When I return home, I'll need to look up Mr. Thomas Harris online and check my own files, too. I remember seeing a Tommy Harris in my detective report about Barbara's affair. If he is the same guy, then I know he is not trustworthy. I will have to watch him closely to make sure he doesn't hurt Freddie in any way. He walked into the gallery like he owned the place, and Madeline said, "Oh, no." She thought he was out of the country because he often travels to the Far East. The link to the Far East brought back some memories that made me feel uneasy. He began talking to the people looking at our art, sharing his thoughts, and suddenly everyone started to leave. We didn't sell a single painting that night. I was convinced that before Harris arrived, we would have sold at least a dozen pieces, based on how the crowd was acting. What should have been a good night for us turned into a disappointment in just 40 minutes of small talk. Maybe my work wasn't the best, but Ben's and Alice's was fantastic. I would buy their paintings if my walls weren't already covered with my own. Over the next month, the 3 of us received offers for our paintings, but they were all very low. Ben and Alice had to sell because they needed the cash. I sold my paintings because my storeroom was overflowing, and I couldn't give any more to Maria and Vanessa. Kathy lives in a small apartment with not much room. I had seen Freddie's art at Maria's place and at his studio. I thought it was amazing and worth a lot of money. I really wanted to buy some, but I wanted to wait until I finished the website projects I was doing for Maria. It was supposed to be a surprise. I was already working on Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Russian versions of her website. I also planned to add more languages later on. I decided to buy some of her art from her website. This way, she wouldn't offer me a discount. Her paintings were beautiful, and I wanted her to earn all she deserved for her work. I was collaborating with a man named Sato-san in Japan for the websites in Japan, Korea, and China. He was very dedicated and kept costs low. I was really impressed by the emails we had exchanged. He was not just changing the words of the text. He was also working on how the website looked to make it more interesting for different cultures. He even looked into how art galleries in Japan showed their paintings to find a nice way to show Freddie's art. A few days ago, he sent me a worrying email about Freddie's work. He told me he would look into it more and let me know what he found. In the email, he talked about visiting a gallery in America. He saw many paintings there, and 3 of them were by Freddie. The cheapest painting was priced at 2.5 million yen, which is around 25,000 US dollars. That is more than 10 times what Freddie's paintings sell for here. I believe that the higher price in Japan shows a better idea of how much Freddie's art is really worth compared to the local prices. Sato-san knew who they were because I had shown photos of her old paintings, which were sold, along with the art pieces that were still for sale on Freddie's English website. He also confirmed they were Freddie's by checking the artist's signature. If he writes back with anything else that seems off, I will ask him to help me find a private detective in Tokyo. I want someone I can hire to look into this more. After that, I would find a detective on this side of the Pacific to help as well. What truly surprised me during Freddie's story about the past was the name of the place where Sato-san saw Freddie's paintings. It was called the Harris Art Gallery. I decided not to mention it to Freddie right away because I didn't want to make her upset. But no one messes with my friends. Madeline was really angry with Harris and told him he could never come back to her gallery. On April 11th, the 4 of us are going to try again. Madeline is having another showing of our artwork. She carefully invited new guests and made sure to praise our paintings when talking to them at our last exhibit, especially those she believed were open to new ideas. Freddie, can I come to your show? Of course, Don. I'll make sure to send you an invitation. We enjoyed a calm evening looking at the art, but I found it hard to relax after thinking about my worries about Harris. Then, Freddie, who drove fast, took me home. I'm too young to have gray hair. It was another typical weekend at Maria's house in the mountains. We did the usual things, exercising, skiing, dancing, and enjoying a lot of food. But there was something special that happened. Late Saturday night, while everyone was busy watching movies, Megan came to my room alone and said she wanted to chat. Dad, please listen to me. I have something important to discuss with you. Sweetheart, whenever you want to talk, no matter what it is, I always listen to you. Dad, I've noticed how Maria and Vanessa act around you, and I think they might really like you. Robin and I both really like Maria. Maybe you should invite her out sometime. Just keep it simple. No need for any showy displays. Just ask her for a nice date. Listen, I shouldn't share this with you, but since you're being honest, I will too. I really wish that Maria or one of her friends liked me in the way you mean, but I can see that it's just not going to happen. It's been clear to me ever since this whole public display thing started. Dad, I think you're missing something. I'd bet anything that Maria really does have feelings for you. Why don't you just give it a try? Sweetheart, Maria and her friends are wonderful, smart, and beautiful women. Any guy would be lucky to have them as a girlfriend or wife, but I'm not that lucky. They're not helping me because they like me that way. They're helping me because they are good friends. They told me they want me to find another girl to date. The important part is another girl. They don't see me that way. Do you see what I mean now? I am also worried that if I try to go after Maria and she gets mad at me, we might lose the good friendship we all have with her. I don't want to put that at risk. Plus, I really don't think she likes me as more than a friend anyway. Thank you for coming to talk to me about this. It makes me a little sad, and if it's okay, I would like to stop talking about it now. All right, Dad. I won't bring it up again, but I still believe you are making a big mistake. I love you, Dad, and so does Robin, so you will always have us. Good night, Daddy. She hugged me tightly and gave me a kiss before she walked out of my room. Good night, Princess. Have fun watching your movie. I love you too. The Monday after our trip to the mountains, I asked Maria if she had some time that morning. I had planned to take the whole morning off. I needed a new suit and wanted her help picking one out. She looked happy to help. After I dropped off my girls, Maria took me to a store she knew about. "Maria, I need to look really good, and I'm ready to spend the money," I said. "Don't worry, Don. I know just the place," she replied. Then she took me to a Brooks Brothers store. Honestly, I could have done that myself. I thought she knew about a special tailor shop for suits, maybe one in a quiet alley. In the end, I bought 2 suits, one in dark blue and one in gray. They cost around $1,500. Maria was very kind and helpful, but during the fitting, she seemed a little too friendly for my taste. "The suits will be ready in about a week. I need them before Freddie's art gallery showing on the 11th. I thanked Maria for all her help when she dropped me off at my apartment. For some reason, she seemed very happy for the rest of that morning. I feel like I'm getting closer to Don. However, there seems to be a barrier between us that I didn't notice before. I think it may be connected to his ex-wife. When I lightly touch him or when we're dancing, he turns a bit red and seems to have trouble catching his breath. This tells me that I'm making him feel something, even if it's just a little. But sometimes he seems so stiff and closed off. At least his date with Freddie was just friendly. However, from what Freddie shared with me this weekend, her driving scared him quite a bit. Poor guy. Now he has another date with Vanessa soon. Oh no. On Monday morning, Don asked me to help him pick out a suit. He should really be asking me what I think about his clothes. I enjoyed the fitting, feeling the fabric and checking how it fit him. I asked if it was too snug or too loose. His body feels strong. I find myself thinking about it a lot. He did even better. He bought exactly what I asked him to. Next Saturday, we are all meeting for Freddie's big event. On Thursday night, Vanessa and I had our practice date. The only change from last time was that I cooked ribeye steaks for dinner. At the dance club, Eva stopped by often. At one point, she asked me what my job was, and I told her I worked as a maintenance man at an apartment building. That was a good time. She looked surprised for a bit, and Vanessa found it funny. But then, as the night went on, Eva came back to our table, looking happy and chatting a lot. When Vanessa went to the restroom, Eva asked me for my phone number. I hesitated but gave her my cell number. I knew I should feel happy about it, but something about her made me uneasy. She gave me a card with her home phone number, cell number, and email address. She placed it in my hand and held on for a moment longer than I expected. Vanessa came back to our table soon after, and I felt a bit relieved. That was the quickest break I had ever seen someone take. I wasn't sure if I should tell her about the phone numbers I exchanged with Eva. It was another lovely weekend at my mountain home. This time I made sure that Don would not have to do any work in the kitchen. He could talk about the desserts he had already made, but besides eating, he had to stay out of my kitchen. Lucille's leg had healed, and she came by to lend a hand. I did pay her, but she is still my friend. Carl was there for all the meals as well. He brought his homemade drinks that Don enjoys so much. Carl began to explain to Don how to hunt. We even got Lucille to join us for our Saturday night movies. She had a slice of the pie, and of course, that turned into 2 more slices. I think she is thinking about leaving Carl and marrying Don. On Thursday night, I didn't have any plans, so I decided to call Barbara. "Hi, Barbara, it's Don. Do you have a minute to chat?" I'm not sure if I could ever be really friendly with her face-to-face, but on the phone, we try to be as nice as we can to each other. Having fights every time we talk won't help us with the important conversations we need to have to raise our 2 daughters. Of course, Don. I'm always here for you. Barbara, if you can, I would like you to keep Megan and Robin with you on Friday night and Saturday, maybe even all weekend. Would that work for you? Don, I would love to have our girls for the weekend. I could take them on a little trip if that's all right with you. But why? You know they will be let down. One of my friends is being hurt, and I want to show the truth. I don't think there will be any problems, but with so much money at stake, I'd rather be careful. So for the next few weeks, let's keep a close eye on our little ones. I don't believe the bad guys will start fighting, but if they do, I want it to happen to me and not to anyone else. Will you be okay? I think I will, and I might just be worrying too much, but I like to take precautions. After we talked a little more, she felt better and began getting ready for the weekend. Then I called Megan on her phone and chatted with both her and Robin. It was tough to change their minds because they wanted to see what was happening, but I was set on keeping them safe, and in the end, they agreed to step back. I made them promise not to reach out to Maria or any of our new friends about it. I wanted to protect them as well. On Friday, I took the whole day off and went to see the police in Seattle. They decided to call in the FBI because it also had to do with things going on in Japan. The local district attorney also showed up. They were thrilled about all the information I had gathered with the 2 private detectives I hired. I didn't mean to put down the local police or the FBI, but it felt like the excitement came from their hope that this investigation would look good for them in the news. I wasn't sure if an actual crime had taken place. However, I was confident that I had enough proof to go after a civil lawsuit. The police officers gathered nearby began to whisper about lying and tricking people. After spending the whole day with them, the Seattle police decided to listen in on all of Mr. Harris's phone calls. They planned for me to wear a hidden microphone on Saturday night. On Saturday afternoon, I put on my new Navy suit in my apartment. The Seattle detectives came over to help me set up the microphone. Wearing a new suit and a secret listening device made me feel like I was in a spy movie. I didn't feel like the newer James Bond. I felt more like the Sean Connery version of Bond. Although I was probably closer to Roger Moore's Bond, who always seemed a bit cheeky. If only I had the right hat, I could pretend to be John Steed from The Avengers. I would really enjoy being him, especially alongside Mrs. Emma Peel in her stylish outfit. That would be exciting. I began to picture Maria in a cool outfit, but I knew it was just a daydream. I let myself think about Maria again because she had been a bit friendlier to me lately, but that was as far as it went. Later that day, my friends came over to my apartment. We were heading to Freddy's art show together. I asked Sato-san to translate the report from the Japanese investigator, as well as the report from a local private investigator I had hired. She mentioned it was a nice break from her usual work. I placed both reports in a new leather folder to look more official. It's important to keep up appearances. Now all I needed was a Walther automatic, but I was worried I might end up hurting myself with it. I had some fun surprises for my friends, and I was really excited to share them. When they arrived, they all got out of their cars and started talking in the parking lot in front of my apartment. They thought Maria would take us to the show. Maria walked over to me and asked, "Are you ready to go, Don?" "Oh, lovely, friends. It seems we have to change our plans." Freddy gave a mischievous grin and shouted, "He's got something up his sleeve." "What's in the case, Don?" "Listen, Freddy, let me explain. Your Mr. Harris is a real piece of work. Not only does he seem shady, but he also has a history with my ex-wife that I'm not happy about. I have some ideas on how to deal with him, and I want to make sure you don't get caught up in any of it." Honestly, I didn't care much about what that guy had done with Barbara in the past. I just wanted to keep Freddy safe. If I could cause a big enough fuss about him being with my ex-wife, maybe he would direct any revenge plans at me and not look for other targets. "You already told me he has said awful things about Madeline. He wants to hurt her if she doesn't let him come to the event tonight, but I'm sure I can find a way to stop him. The only issue is that if it seems like we are friends, he might try to ruin your career out of spite before his own goes downhill. There is no way that guy can cause me any trouble, so you all need to act like you don't know me, no matter what happens. Just enjoy the show." "Freddy, I promise this will not hurt your performance, and I'm almost certain it will help both your career and your friends, too. Please believe me, all right? If I'm wrong, I'll cook and bake for you forever." The last part shocked Maria. Just imagine Maria in a snug outfit. "Stop it, Steed!" After some back and forth, Freddy and the others finally agreed to my plan. We drove to the gallery separately to make sure we wouldn't show up at the same time. When I got to the gallery, I made an effort to connect with Madeline. I clearly told her that I was there to buy something that evening. The artwork on display was priced between $1,500 and $5,000, similar to the last exhibit that Harris had messed up. I stood quietly, sipping my wine, wishing I could have one of the beers Carl had saved for me. Mr. Harris needed to show up for the event to start. At 7:30, my biggest rival came in. "If you're a spy, you need to use the right terms, right?" Just as I thought, he quickly walked through the gallery, looking at the different pieces. Then, he began to speak out loud, pointing out faults in the best artworks. If he could make the top pieces seem bad, no one would care about the other works. Harris began talking to a group of people standing near one of the finest paintings. To me, that painting was the best in the show, and it was created by Freddy. It was a stunning painting of a tall ship at dawn with a fierce storm. The ship had clearly been battling the rough sea all night, but was still holding on. I really wanted it, and buying it would annoy Harris. Harris started to talk. The artist made an effort, but I jumped in, cutting him off. Madeline, this painting costs only $5,000? If that's true, I want to buy it right now. Could you please put a sold sign on it? Sure, Donald. It's only $5,000. What a great deal, right? I have the label right here on my clipboard. Harris's face quickly turned angry. He said to himself, "That man is really making a big mistake," before moving on to the next painting. Nearby, a blond man who looked a few years older than me also seemed upset about my buy. He appeared to be angry with his wife, too. If you take a nap, you miss out. I walked behind Harris to see the next painting. The colors here are so beautiful. Madeline, is it true that the painting costs only $4,500? Yes, Donald. You see, the artist is very talented, but he is not well known yet. Because of this, his artwork is still a good deal. I want it. Please put a new tag on it for me. I smiled at Madeline. Then I turned to face Harris, who was looking very angry. I gave him a look that said, "You're in big trouble." He seemed a bit disturbed for some reason and quickly moved on to the next painting. This time, he didn't have as many people around him, but I had a lot of people watching me, eager to see what I would do next. I was trying not to look at my friends, but I couldn't help but glance at Freddie. Her face was very pale, and it took both Vanessa and Kathy to keep her back. Those two had huge smiles on their faces, clearly enjoying the moment. Maria was looking at me like I was a naughty kid and she was a strict mom. Just wait and see, I thought. The next painting was by Freddie again. I wished it was one of Alice's. I liked this painting, but I really wanted to buy a piece from all three artists tonight. We followed the same steps, and I bought the painting for $4,200. At this point, I had finally gotten Harris to start yelling at me. I couldn't help but wish he would try to hit me too. I really wanted to knock him out. What do you think you are doing, you idiot? I'm doing the same thing you always do. You've done it over and over, and I know you'll try to do it again. I'm buying a lovely piece of art and planning to make a lot of money from it. Your plan is to come here with your strong name as an art critic, putting down these amazing artworks. Your name is so well known that even if others like the paintings, they hesitate to buy them because they don't want to look silly. Because of this, the paintings don't sell, and the artists, who need money to live, have to lower their prices. Then you send in your helpers to buy these paintings for only a few $100s, even though they should sell for tens of thousands of dollars. Next, you send the artwork to your sister, Olivia Harris, in Japan. She shows it to people and wants to get a better price for it. I remember that Miss Freddie Hansen's painting of a clipper ship in a storm, which you bought for a great deal, sold for almost $35,000 about 6 months ago. I was surprised to hear that your sister has the nerve to act as these artists' official representative in Japan. Do you have any other questions? You can't prove any of this. Oh, but I can. Madeline, Miss Hansen, Miss Simons, and Mr. Rath, please come here. I have copies of 2 reports for you. One is from a private investigator in Japan, and the other is from someone I hired here. I believe you may have a strong reason to take Mr. Harris to court. Madeline, I have copies of the report in plastic covers. You may want to display these so your customers can read them and see if my claims are true. You might be hesitant to do this now because of legal issues, but if anyone is curious, I have already posted these reports on my website. I also have some business cards with the web address. Just ask me for a card if you need one. Why are you helping me? My name is Don Hendricks. You might not know me, according to my private detective, but I am one of the many people harmed by your actions. 4 years ago, you met my wife. In 2 months, you won her over and got close to her, which ended up destroying our marriage. She is now my ex-wife because of what happened. Paybacks are tough, Mr. Harris. A hush fell over the crowd that had gathered as I confronted him. Harris turned pale and quickly dashed out of the gallery. I felt a bit let down. I had hoped he would make a big deal out of it, maybe even say he wanted to take me to court for saying something bad about him. What a sneaky person. Madeline turned to the audience and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of my gallery, because of this news, and until I can find out what is really happening, we will not sell any artwork tonight. These hard-working artists deserve to be paid fairly for their work. It seems that the value of their art here may have been wrongly changed. I need some time to look again at the prices of these pieces. I'm really sorry if you're let down. I apologize again. Just so you know, what Mr. Harris did at last year's exhibition hurt Alice and Ben's money situation a lot. In about 2 weeks, I might have another show of their art, or I might look into selling their art to other countries, depending on how well it does here. Thank you for your time. The clever woman made a subtle threat. Either pay up, or I will sell our well-known artwork in Japan. The event continued for 2 more hours, and nearly everyone asked for a business card. During the night, the wife of the man with blonde hair approached me. She wanted to buy Freddie's painting of the Windjammer. Her husband had looked very angry after what I shared. I shook my head at her. I don't often buy things just because they look nice, but when I do, I keep them safe. I was really happy with the 3 paintings I had picked out. I felt bad that Harris couldn't handle more than 3. There was one more painting from Freddie that I really liked, and one from Alice that was also nice. I stood by the door as the gallery was getting ready to close for the night. I needed to wait to get my paintings. Freddie really wanted to talk to me, but her friends were stopping her. I could see the anger in her eyes, and I worried she might explode when they finally let her go. Right before they walked away, I heard the man with blonde hair arguing with his wife. She was looking down at the ground. Last year, I really wanted to buy that painting of the clipper ship, but you said I had to wait for Harris to say what he thought. You even got angry and called me childish. Did you hear about that Hendricks guy? His painting sold for $35,000. This year, I decided to forget about everything and really wanted to buy that Windjammer painting. But once again, you did the same thing as before. You even said you would take the kids for a long visit to your mom's. Now we've learned that Harris is a trickster, a thief, and not loyal at all. I see that you have been spending a lot of your free time with the local art groups in the city. I've noticed that Harris often shows up with them. It seems like you listen to him very closely, both this year and last. Hendricks mentioned that Harris often goes after married women, and I can't help but think about you. Your bright eyes and warm cheeks seem to say a lot when he is near. You got what you wanted. You're going to stay at your mother's for a long time, but you won't be taking the kids. I need some time to understand what's happening. Maybe that report from Hendricks will help. As for you messing up my chance to get some nice art for my office, I really like this woman's work, and her prices are likely getting very high. Remember that new car you wanted this year? That's not going to happen now. As they walked out the door, I heard one last and another. Finally, everyone had left, and Madeline locked the doors. I turned to Freddie while Kathy and Vanessa watched. I closed my eyes, ready for Madeline to be angry with me. I was surprised when she jumped up, wrapped her arms around my neck and her legs around my waist. She kissed me deeply, and I didn't know how, but she somehow opened my mouth with her tongue. Next to Maria's warm kiss, this was the best one I ever had. Freddie has her legs wrapped around my waist, which makes it even better. The judges score Freddie a perfect 10, and I feel a rush of excitement. We kissed for a few minutes, but it felt much longer. She finally pulled back to catch her breath and said, "I should be mad at you, but thank you so much for taking that guy down." Somewhere in the background, the Seattle police and the FBI were getting ready to collect proof against Harris. I suddenly remembered something important. My hidden microphone was still on. As soon as I could, I needed to find a way to leave and turn it off. I hoped they weren't still recording. They had already mentioned that if everything went well, I could just take the item back to the police station on Monday. Madeline, Ben, and Alice thanked me a lot for what I did. Vanessa stood back with Maria, while Kathy was waving her arms wildly at Freddie, who still held on to me tightly. I hoped my suit coat had enough space to hide the heavy ship's pin I had found. Finally, Freddie let go, and I said I needed to use the bathroom. There was only one bathroom for everyone to share. On my way, I grabbed a big glass of ice water from the bar that was set up for the guests. When I got to the bathroom, I locked the door, took off my shirt, and removed the listening device. Once I did that, I tucked it into my suit coat pocket where it felt more comfortable. She raised her hands in front of her and smiled at me. "Please don't hurt me, Maria. I couldn't stop myself. Don is such a great guy, and he's looking really good lately. Harris was trying to make my life hard again tonight, but Don stepped in to help me. Harris has been a problem for me for the last 2 years, and he's been a troublemaker in the local art scene for about 10 years. Bam! Don stopped him with one blow. Don stood there, looking sharp in his new suit. You even said it yourself. He looks like a knight. Tonight, I felt like his damsel in distress, and I acted like one would around their hero. But I drew the line at a kiss. I knew I wouldn't go any further with Don, and I wouldn't even kiss him like that unless you were there to make sure everything stayed okay. Honestly, Maria, Don really deserved a treat, and I wanted to make that happen. I turned my back on Freddie, angry and with my fists tight. I knew Freddie was right. I knew the way she acted was just like her, but I was really, really mad. It should have been me sharing that moment with Don. Then a scared thought crossed my mind. Could I even share a moment like that with Don anymore? I hadn't been exercising lately like I should have, and both Vanessa and Freddie were in much better shape than I was. I really need to start using my home gym and my membership at Vanessa's more often. Maybe I should go on Tuesday evenings so I can see Don too. All right, take deep breaths, Maria, and relax. Your time will come, and you should be in good shape by then, just like Don. But I should be Don's only heroine in trouble. I felt overwhelmed. I had a wonderful time this weekend with my daughters. I rented a big house by the ocean, and there were staff to help us out. To make it more fun, I let each of my daughters invite 1 or 2 friends. We enjoyed a lovely view of the sea and the fresh smell of the ocean all around us. For 2 of our 3 meals each day, we feasted on delicious seafood. We stayed in our pajamas, indulged in too many treats, played games, watched movies, and stayed up late. We were a bit naughty and loved every moment. I had more fun in those 3 days than I ever had on any of my long and costly trips to Europe. I felt really happy. But then, on Monday morning, after my kids went to school, Don's sisters came over and spoiled my mood. I know I was the one who broke my marriage, but they were the ones who got me into it. Hi, Diane, Michelle, what brings you here? I tried hard to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Hi, Barbara. We haven't seen you or your kids in a while, so we thought we would stop by to check on you. How have you been? Things have been getting better, thank you for asking. Michelle started to talk. Barbara, we have a problem with our husbands. Since the divorce, when people found out we had been helping you, our husbands have been very suspicious and angry with us. They believe that because we supported you, we must have been unfaithful as well. They really liked Don, and cannot see how we could have turned against him like that. Diane continued, For the past couple of years, they've been judging us all the time and watching everything we do. We have seen marriage counselors, but we can't tell them the real truth that we have been unfaithful for years. If we did, they would end our marriages right away. We realize that if we were truly innocent, we should be angry at our husbands for what they did. But we aren't, and this only makes them think we were unfaithful too. Michelle jumped in again. Things got even more difficult when that investigator showed up asking questions about Don. Our husbands were present, and the questions from the investigator along with our responses made them very upset. 2 months ago, they gave us an important choice. They had been working together for a while, worried that we might be unfaithful. We had to decide whether to sign a legal paper. This paper said that if either of us was unfaithful, the other would get all shared property and full custody of the kids. If we didn't agree, they would start the divorce process right away. We quickly said yes because we thought it would make things easier for them, and we promised we wouldn't be unfaithful again. But when we arrived at the lawyer's office, we realized we had been fooled. The agreement included mistakes we made in the past, too. We couldn't say no to signing because that would mean we were guilty. We felt stuck. Diane added, We heard that our husbands have gathered money to hire private detectives to look closely at what we did in the years before your divorce. I heard them discussing their plan to hire detectives for a 2-week investigation each year until they find what they're looking for. We've been visiting everyone who knows about our problems and asking them to stay quiet if a detective comes around. We've realized the mistakes we've made, and we really want to save our marriages. Please help us. I was so angry. More than 5 years ago, I came to you, my closest friends, and Don's sisters asking for help with my marriage. Instead of telling me to get therapy, or even suggesting I do something adventurous to bring some fun into our lives, you pushed me to cheat. You all lied to me. I think you wanted to make your own bad choices seem okay by pulling me into your mess. When I started to go off track, You should have told Don. Maybe then he could have forgiven me. You helped me make him look weak and eager to please around our friends. Did you ever think about how this affects your brother? How could you treat him this way? You both were like my guides, showing me how to step out on my own. Then you became my biggest fans, asking for all the details of what I was doing. While I was being unfaithful to Don, I kept telling myself it was fine because Don's sisters, who care for him deeply, might think it was okay. I thought maybe he wouldn't mind if he ever found out. I can see you all looking worried. Don't worry, I won't cover for you, but I'll also not talk to any investigators who come to ask me questions. I have a question for you. What are you doing to make your marriages better? The only thing I've heard is that you've stopped being unfaithful. You say you can't be open with your marriage counselors because you think your mistakes are just as bad, or maybe even worse than mine. Don't act so surprised. You've been unfaithful to your husbands at least once a year for 7 years before my divorce. Some of the stories you shared make me think it happened even more often. Oh, Diane, have you ever checked to see if your youngest child is really your husband's? How could you keep being unfaithful after that? All your husband needs to do is get DNA tests for your kids. That would be an easy way to show if you haven't been honest. This weekend I decided to start therapy. Have you both thought about visiting a therapist? Everything you shared with your therapist would stay private, and it would show your husbands that you were trying to fix the issue. I just had a wonderful weekend with my daughters. I felt happier than I have in a long time until you both arrived. You've ruined my good mood, you selfish and sneaky women. Please go. I pointed to the door. Diane and Michelle left, crying and saying sorry. Michelle had to help Diane walk out the door. On Tuesday, I got a call from Kathy. She told me the ski trails were losing their snow and turning muddy. It seemed like the ski season was over for us. Kathy said this was good for her because the only days she had free for practice were Friday and Saturday. Otherwise, we would have been too worn out from skiing. This Saturday, she was coming over to my house at 6 in the evening. She asked for my Korean pork dinner and the pie. She said it would be fine if my kids and Maria joined us for the meal, too. She had already talked to Maria, and Maria had agreed to watch the kids that night. On Tuesday evening, I went to Vanessa's club and was surprised to see Maria there. She didn't join Vanessa and me for our workout until we got to the treadmills. When she came over, we exercised next to each other, but she didn't say much. Still, she looked really good while working out. Wednesday was our usual therapy night. Maria fell asleep early in the living room after the session. I ended up carrying her to bed. It was funny because even though she was fast asleep, my girls followed us into her room to watch another movie. Tradition is tradition, I suppose. It doesn't matter if Maria is sleeping. I've been exercising lately to get fit again. I can't believe how much I've let myself go. It's amazing that I can even teach dance to Dawn. On Tuesday, I chose to join Dawn at Vanessa's club. It turned out to be a bad idea. Vanessa pulled me aside before Dawn arrived and told me that I wouldn't be able to keep up with her and Dawn in my current shape. She mentioned that I might feel a bit shy, so I chose to watch from afar, and she was correct. It wasn't just that they were lifting heavy weights. It was how quickly they finished each set and moved to the next activity. I knew I could never keep up with that in my current state. If I had tried to work out with them, I would have only held them back, and we would still be here tonight. When they began using the treadmills, I thought I would give it a try too. Don and Vanessa were both running fast. I noticed that Don had his treadmill set to 7.5 miles per hour, and it was also changing the incline by itself. I set my treadmill to a fast walk at 3.8 miles per hour. There was no incline, but I struggled to breathe. Then Don wanted to talk. I really wanted to keep up with him, but it was hard. He ran for almost an hour and a half. After that, he had a slow cool-down that lasted for another 30 minutes. He called the long cool-down his gravy time because it was easy and very helpful. After Don left, I asked one of the massage therapists to give me a full massage. I ended up falling asleep on the table for a whole hour. I could hardly keep my eyes open on the way home. On Wednesday night, I dozed off almost right when the first movie started. Robin and Megan thought it was really funny. The sound of their laughter and their movements at the end of the movie gently brought me back to reality, but I was so sleepy that I pretended to stay asleep. Then they did something really nice. They went to get their dad, and Don picked me up and carried me to my room. I felt happy being carried by Don. It would have been even better if he had taken me to his own room. Megan and Robin came right after him. They helped cover me with blankets. Then they put a DVD in the player and climbed into bed next to me. It was a lovely moment. I drifted back to sleep until morning when something amazing happened. Megan woke me up. She and Robin were up to some mischief. They were trying to pull me into the shower. I thought about letting them, just for fun, but I was too heavy for them. I was worried they might hurt themselves or me. On Saturday night, Kathy came over for her practice date, and she was right on time. She wore snug jeans that fit her well and a simple, nice white shirt. For some reason, she carried a briefcase. As usual, she greeted me with a friendly kiss at the door. This time, my kids showed her around our apartment instead of me. Maria even helped with dinner. She seemed to be in a good mood. She even promised to keep Roscoe in his cage that night. After we enjoyed a delicious dinner together, I realized I had to take a quick shower before we went out. I really didn't want to smell like pork, onions, and garlic for the whole night. Kathy had different ideas for what was going to happen next. "Don, can we find a quiet place to talk?" she asked. I noticed my two daughters watching us closely, and even Maria seemed interested in our conversation. I decided my office was not the right place. "The best spot for us to talk alone is my basement workshop," I replied. When it was built, I put in soundproofing so my tools wouldn't bother my tenants. She glanced at everyone watching us and nodded, ready to follow me down the stairs with her briefcase. In my workshop, I cleared off a couple of chairs next to my workbenches for us to sit on. Looking at me, she started to talk. "Don, please don't feel shy and know that I am nearly done with my doctorate in psychology. I heard that your relationship with your ex-wife was not very happy. I really believe it wasn't your fault. I have some books for you here in my bag about different ways to connect with someone." She placed her bag on the table. I felt a bit uneasy at the mention of books. She took out 5 books from her bag, and luckily I only recognized 3 of them, but that was enough. "I would like you to read these, and—" I interrupted her. "No, I won't. I'm sorry to cut in, Kathy, but I need to share something with you. I noticed early in my marriage that my relationship was not good, so I bought books like that. Actually, 3 of mine were the same as yours. I only looked through my books quickly because I hoped my ex-wife and I could sit down together and read them. I thought it would help us connect more and that we would be more open with each other if we did it as a team." Barbara firmly turned away from them, so I put them in a box and pushed them aside. Then, while packing up to move during the divorce, I discovered them in an old briefcase belonging to Barbara in the garage. She had written notes in the books, marking important parts and adding comments in the margins. She also had notebooks full of more details. When I glanced at the books, I got so angry that I had to leave the house quickly to keep my calm. The books I bought for us were used by her to get better with her partners. "I'm sorry, Kathy. I know you only wanted to help, but I can't look at those books again. I need to go outside for a bit to clear my head. Sorry again. I'll see you upstairs." Instead of going back to my apartment through the stairs, I chose a different door that took me right outside. On my way out, 2 unusual things happened. At first, I thought I saw the basement door close a little before I got to it. Then, when I shut the basement door behind me, I thought I heard Kathy shout, "That horrible person!" But it was probably just my mind playing tricks on me. There's no way anyone could yell that loud from my soundproof basement workshop for me to hear it. It took me about 20 minutes to calm down. When I got back to my apartment, I saw both Kathy and Maria looking quite worried. I said sorry again to Kathy. She told me not to worry and to let it go. I headed to my room to wash up and change, but Maria and Kathy came with me. Kathy said, "Don, we need to check your clothes. I'm taking you out tonight, and you need to look good." They began searching through my clothes and tossing them onto the bed. As they whispered to themselves, I kept hearing "no, nope," and "you've got to be joking." Maria eventually discovered an old black polo shirt in the back of my closet. I had received it as a gift long ago, but it was a size too small. I had only worn it once. "Don, does this fit you?" Maria asked. "Yes, but it's too snug," I replied. She turned to Kathy, who nodded in agreement. They set the polo shirt aside gently. A moment later, Kathy found something else. "Don, these gray pants here, do they look new to you?" "Yeah, they're way too tight, too." The 2 women smiled at each other, then Maria said, "Don, you go take your shower and don't worry about us. We'll tidy up in here, and we'll leave out the clothes you should wear for tonight." I had a feeling I knew what was coming. Why do I always get myself into these situations? Sure enough, when I finished my shower, there was the black shirt and the gray pants on the bed. They had even laid out my underwear and socks. One of them chose the same type of socks I liked, but instead of my soft and comfy boxers, they picked a pair of tight underwear. There was no way I could wear those pants with my loose boxers. After 10 minutes of frustration, I walked out of my bedroom feeling uncomfortable with each step. I really didn't want to think about what was happening in the other room. Before I left my room, I looked in the mirror. I thought I looked okay and didn't seem too silly, so with a little worry, I went out to ask my daughters what they thought. To my surprise, they greeted me with loud whistles and said, "Hey, looking good!" Maria just stood there with her mouth open. Kathy walked around me, studying me from every side. "I think you're the one." She took my arm and hurried me out the door, leaving me little time to say goodbye. I needed to find out what Kathy was going to say to Dawn. When they went downstairs, I quickly told Megan and Robin that I needed something from my car. Then I dashed outside to the other entrance of the basement. I wasn't sure if Don realized that I knew the key he had given me for the apartment would also open the separate basement door. I hurried down the stairs, trying to be fast and quiet to get to Don's workshop. I stood silently outside the door to listen. I heard Kathy say, "You could read these and—" But then Don cut her off. I heard him talk about a really bad time he had when he found the books his wife used to learn about love, that thoughtless person. "If I ever see her, I'll give her a piece of my mind for you." I then heard him say, "The books I got for us, she used to get better with her partners." That was a harsh way to put it. When I heard Don tell Kathy he was going outside for a walk, I rushed to the stairs as quietly as I could. I slipped out the door and quickly shut it behind me. I felt sure that I could hear Don's heavier footsteps as I hurried around the corner of the building and started running. I wasn't sure which way he would go on his walk, and I wanted to get far away from that door and out of sight. I quickly ran around the building and headed back to the entrance of Don's apartment. Luckily, my friends didn't ask me what I had gone to my car for. I had forgotten to grab something to show as an excuse. I thought maybe I could have brought in the owner's manual or even the spare tire, but I chuckled at the idea. I hurried into the bathroom to buy myself some time. I needed a few minutes to calm down after what I had just found out. I didn't want Don to realize I had been watching him, but someone had to look out for him, and I needed to know more to do it well. I splashed cold water on my face for about 10 minutes to feel better. Luckily, I had left some of my makeup here because my face looked a mess. When I walked out, I saw only Megan and Robin in the apartment. They were both staring out the window. I looked out too and noticed Don walking quickly toward us from far away. Robin turned to me, looking worried, and said, "Daddy always takes long walks when he's upset. Do you think everything is okay?" She looked so concerned that I pulled her into a hug to comfort her. Megan looked at me while I held on to Robin with my right arm and pulled Megan in with my left for a cozy hug. "Your dad is a nice and caring person. He probably doesn't want you to see him look upset. So don't worry, he's just taking a moment to relax." I finished my words as Kathy finally came up the stairs. She had been down there for a while. She likely needed some time to calm down, too. Kathy didn't feel any special feelings for Don, but she cared for him as a good friend. She never liked it when anyone treated her friends badly. When Don came back, we followed him into his room to help him choose his outfit for the night. I seriously need to take that guy shopping. Kathy and I looked through almost all of his clothes to find something nice for a fun night out. Even what we discovered wasn't great, but it should highlight his nicely shaped body. When he came out of the bathroom, I was taken aback. My friends started whistling, and I couldn't find my voice. Vanessa had mentioned he was only partly fit, but that wasn't true. Don usually wore baggy clothes. Even his pajamas looked too big. But what the fitted clothes showed was impressive. I felt a sudden urge to celebrate his look in a sweet way. I was so anxious that I could hardly say goodbye as Kathy led him out the front door. That night, I felt really nervous. I knew Kathy would never try to get close to Don, but what about the other women at all the clubs they were going to visit tonight? My friends and I played Monopoly and watched movies at the same time. It was tough to concentrate on the films or the game with all my worries about Don in my mind. Megan is a clever player when it comes to Monopoly. It's easy to forget about the game when an exciting part of a movie is on, and she was excellent at making sure people got distracted. Can you guess who won the game? Around 1 in the morning, I brought the girls into my room. They did fall asleep by 2, but I still couldn't sleep at all. Then, at 3:30 in the morning, I finally heard the front door open. Dawn came in carrying Kathy, and she was really drunk. She had done this before, but I didn't think she would do it with Don. She must really trust him. Then again, if she was upset about what Don said in the basement, this might make sense. She gave a small wave from Don's arms and rested her head on his shoulder. Don walked Kathy into the main bedroom and gently placed her on his bed. She really needs to find a bathroom soon, and it would help a lot if it were a private one. I stayed with her while he gathered some things. A bucket, a pitcher of water, a glass, some paper towels, hand towels, and an ice pack. This guy really knew how to take care of people who had too much to drink. "Don, you really seem to know what you're doing. How did you learn all this?" He just shrugged. "My sisters like to party a lot, so I took care of them many nights. That's mostly why I don't drink too much. I never want to be that kind of messy. Kathy doesn't seem too bad, but my sisters would drink so much that they couldn't even keep their clothes clean." I felt a little sick just thinking about it. I stayed with Kathy as she leaned over the toilet for the next 2 hours. She sang a lot, and her voice was strong. Don tried to help out, but sometimes it got a bit awkward, so he chose to leave during those moments. When she finally fell deep asleep, Don and I wanted to have some fun. He went to look for some Halloween makeup that his kids had bought. We took some green and purple spray-on hair color along with a can of my hairspray and gave her a changed Bride of Frankenstein style. Then Don gave me a new pack of men's underwear with a 26-inch waist. He smiled at me and left the room. I had already struggled a bit with her snug jeans and changed her into a spare pair of my pajamas. It didn't feel too bad, but it still took some time, and I left the room smiling. "Why did you have such tiny underwear?" I asked playfully. "I got the wrong size and forgot to take them back. Here's my camera. I don't want to see the photos, but maybe Vanessa and Freddie would enjoy them." He smiled at me. I smiled back, took the camera, and went back into the room. Wow, she's a former model, so she should be used to having her picture taken. The next morning, I got out of bed and went to see how Kathy was doing. My girls had stayed over with me, so Don had taken Megan's bed for the night. When I walked into the master bedroom, I saw Don already there. Kathy was sitting up in bed looking really tired, especially with her new haircut. Don looked at me and winked, showing me that Kathy didn't know how her hair looked yet. He sat in a chair next to the bed, giving her little sips of water and pieces of bread. She looked at me with such sadness that I almost felt bad about the hair dye and the underwear almost. Don stood up and passed me the tray with the bread and water. "I'll start making breakfast," he said. "Kathy, would you like some delicious sausage gravy and biscuits?" "Don, please don't say that. I might get sick again," she cried out. He raised his eyebrows playfully, smiled, and walked out of the room. I stared at her and slowly shook my head. "Tisk, tisk, tisk. You've been a naughty girl. What were you doing last night, trying to make Don sick?" Kathy glanced at me, looking guilty, but she still seemed really unwell. "I'm sorry, Maria. I was so angry last night that I began drinking quickly and a lot. I knew Don would look after me, so I thought I could relax a bit for a few hours, just until I calmed down. But I drank too much too quickly and kept going all night. I think you need to say sorry to Don. It's not easy for him to take care of you at a club when you act like that. Remember, Vanessa, Freddie, and I have told you this before. I owe Don more than just a sorry. I think I got sick in his car last night," she groaned. "Oh no, I stayed a little longer with Kathy until she felt it was time to get some more rest." As I walked out of the room, I thought to myself that I should have been the first one to sleep in Don's bed. But with Kathy feeling so sad, I couldn't feel too upset about it. The kids were still asleep, so I went to chat with Don. "Did she really throw up in your car last night?" "No, I managed to get the window down just in time, so she only got sick on the outside. It wasn't a big deal." "How was your night besides taking care of Kathy?" "I was so bored. It felt just like all those times I babysat my sisters." The music was so loud that it was hard to talk. Many people were loud, probably because of the music. There were a lot of drunk people, and this time some were getting too close to me. I think some of them were guys, but it was so crowded that I couldn't tell for sure. I really don't see how anyone can enjoy that. When Don talked about people being too touchy, I felt angry. People were being disrespectful to my Don. I used to go out to clubs a lot, but these days, I've thought about giving it up for Don. Sometimes a guy would grab me in a way I didn't like. Whenever that happened, I made sure to make a fuss. This would usually bring over a security guard or, once in a while, even the police. Guys didn't face this kind of problem, and I could see why some people might want to grab Don. He looked really good last night. But still, that was not okay, because it was my space. Megan and Robin finally got up about an hour after I woke up. Don and I sent them in to see Kathy with a big mirror while I waited by the door with Don's camera. Kathy was too tired to shout, but she could still make some sounds. That's what ghouls are supposed to do, right? Later that day, I took my family out to shop. Don really needed some new clothes, and I wanted to buy my girls some nice robes and comfy slippers. Don let me choose his clothes however I wanted. I picked the styles and colors, but he complained a bit too much about how much they cost. I shot him my "you're pushing it" look, and that worked. When it was time to pay, I gave him the look again. I even had to bring up Roscoe before he finally put his wallet away. I had a great time shopping. Soon I want to buy him that Mustang, maybe a convertible. We would look awesome driving around in it. Every step forward seemed to lead me back into the darkness. As Maria's past collided with mine, I realized that the demons we both carry might just be too much to bear. Will our secrets tear us apart, or is there hope on the horizon? Subscribe now and don't miss what happens next in this roller coaster of emotions.